Today's podcast is brought to you by the Hounds of Baskerville, the traditional barbershop and shaving parlour. Looking a bit scruffy? Got a big date? Maybe you got an important meeting? Go online and book at hounds.sg. Running whilst heavily pregnant, the Irish Republican Army, and why white people can't do the Asian squat. This is There's Something About Maire.
But then once you were there, we were a bit apprehensive, if we caught COVID, we would have to stay, you can't fly for another 14 days. So that was a bit, it just makes you a bit anxious. Like, you're not acting as normal once you're in your country. Like, you're not meeting up with friends as casually, you're not just popping in to see people. So that was a bit sad. We spent most of our time with family, but it was, like, don't get me wrong, it was lovely to get to go home, having not gone home for 2 years, and see all your family. Like, definitely worth it. If I was going for a vacation, wouldn't be worth it. But if you're going to see your family, I think it is worth it.
So if you like your family, then it's worth it.
Yeah.
If you don't like your family,
no, I wouldn't bother. Because it's more stress than, it's not like normal travelling. You're travelling with stress and anxiety the whole time, thinking, what if I get COVID? What if I can't get back in? Or what if my visa gets rejected? Or what if my, like, especially getting back into Singapore, what if my approval gets revoked? And then you're stuck out. How long are you stuck out for? It depends. If you could work remotely, and that, you know, is an option, I think it's okay. It's not as stressful. But definitely for us, we were like, we need to actually go into work. So for us, it was just, like, towards the end of the trip, when we were waiting to get on the flight, we were like, we just need to get on the flight,
Yeah.
And then once you were on it and back in Singapore, fine.
Yeah, because I was going to travel and they said, you can leave.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And you can come back too.
Yeah.
But if something happens in the country you're in and the restrictions change, or there was like slots at the airport.
Yeah.
And if you miss your slot because, I don't know, the airplane breaks down or whatever.
Yeah.
And a slot in a quarantine hotel at that point.
Yeah.
They just said,
that's
go
on you.
back in the queue, and they said there's loads of pass holders that are outside.
Yeah.
So I think, it'll be scary coming back in. Like,
and same,
will you get in or not? Like,
exactly. And like, we chose to, obviously Ireland's category 3. 3. So we had to do 10 days SHN.
What's category 3?
So category 1 is like, you can go Macau, Hong Kong, China, and have no quarantine, no repercussions
like
coming
green
back
lane
in.
Sort of thing? Okay.
And then category 2 were all the VTL countries. So you could come back in and you have no quarantine, or you had 7 days of ART testing. But Ireland before we left, they got dropped down to category 3, which meant we came back to Singapore and had to serve stay-at-home notice for 10 days.
Right.
So we stayed in our house for 10 days.
Okay.
And then you did a PCR on arrival and a PCR on exit. And if they're both negative, then you're allowed out.
How many categories are there?
Then there's category 4, and that's just basically I think it's hotel quarantine, or we won't let you back in.
What countries are?
I don't know, actually. I must look it up. Ireland, I was like just praying that we wouldn't go down to category 4.
It's like hurricanes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is that the cat playing with the bell? We took the bell off the cat's neck.
To stop her.
And now she likes to play with
She's like, well, I found it.
it's like hurricanes, right? Like category 4, well, that must be like...
And it's the flip in Ireland. So in Ireland, it's category 1 is the worst. So they were like, what do you mean you're category 3? And I was like, that's bad. And they were like, but
no, it's
good. You're like, they couldn't get it, right?
That's what's fucked up. Like, the governments is like, it's supposed to be a global health problem.
Yeah.
But like, just have a chat.
Yeah,
like, Are you category 1, 2 or 3? Like,
what are we all saying?
Yeah.
And I had a patient saying she went to Kazakhstan. She's from Kazakhstan. And Kazakhstan was category 3. But she said that's on par with Russia. But she said, but Russia's way worse than... So she wrote an email to the ministry here, and they bumped her back up to category 2. She reckons they didn't have any of the data on Kazakhstan and were just lumping it in with Russia. And she sent them the data, the info on the cases, and then while she was away, it got bumped to category 2. And she's
lucky she didn't get category
2. Yeah, I know. We're just like a complete ban.
Very risky play.
Exactly. It could go either way. Yeah. Don't tell us what to do.
And is there restrictions in Ireland?
When we got back, they had brought in some, bars and restaurants all closed at 8 p.m. because pub scene, especially before Christmas.
In Ireland?
Yeah.
8?
Yeah, 8 p.m. People were losing their mind.
People be on edge.
But 7:59, 20 drinks.
Right.
And then drank outside. And then weddings, I think they got a bit of a bum deal. They got dropped to 100 people. 100
Do you have
guests.
to wear a mask?
No, so indoors, yes, if you're like a bit like here, indoors, if you're going to the toilet in between your meals and stuff, yeah, you have to wear your masks. And in public transport, grocery stores, all that. But like, it's very much common sense. Like, if you're out and about, you don't wear a mask. If you're in the park, you don't wear a mask. If you're fearful, you might wear a mask, you know, through the main street of a town. But other than that, no, outside is fine, which was lovely.
In some toilets, you want to be wearing a mask
anyway. In some places you don't. Exactly. So, yeah, no, it was that part of being home was lovely. It was a breath of fresh air, just common sense rules.
Yeah, it's wearing a mask all the time here is like...
And you think you're going to be... You think, like, when you go back, you're going to be like, oh, no, I will wear my mask. But actually, within a day, you're like, oh, this is so nice. I'm not wearing my mask all day, every day.
And were you worried, like, because obviously you're expecting...
Yeah. I was definitely worried on the flight.
Yeah.
Because I was just, you know, like, confined space for 14 hours. I was thinking, if I'm going to catch COVID, I'm going to catch it on the flight. But once I was home, I didn't feel any more at risk than anyone else. I felt like, you know, I'm double vaccinated and boosted. So if I'm going to get it, I'm getting it just as much as anyone who's unpregnant or not pregnant, right?
But what is there any complications if you...
Yeah, I was reading up about it. Yeah, they put you on warfarin, they put you on drugs. Blood. Apparently it's clots is the big thing.
There's a higher risk because
of clots when you're pregnant. I don't know why, but so they'll put you on drugs, blood thinners, and then if you're positive at 37 weeks, they'll induce you. They don't want you going later.
Right.
It must be because you're more blood flow, you're carrying more blood, therefore you're higher risk of these clots. Which thankfully I didn't know when I was back home that they were doing that. They were inducing people. So now that we're back, like, I'm a little bit less apprehensive. The COVID numbers here are much better than at home.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so it's pretty bad in Ireland?
Like, normally I wouldn't follow and I wouldn't be obsessed or kind of bothered by it, but it was just while we were there, it was going up. It was 15,000, 24,000 last week.
A day.
However, the hospitalisations are not as bad.
But there's only 60,000 in Ireland.
No. Same as Singapore. 5 million. Yeah.
I'm only joking.
Yeah, no, but our landmass is 32 times greater than Singapore's. So you're spread out. You're not on top of each other.
Yeah.
But our numbers were going crazy at Christmas. But it's the Irish at Christmas, right? Everyone loves Christmas. Everyone loves a drink. Everyone loves meeting people.
Everyone's singing, is it the Pose?
Yes, Fairy Tale in New York. The minute you hear that song, it's officially Christmas in Ireland.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why things went crazy over the holidays.
Yeah, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Did you drink a lot of tea? Because I went to Ireland, right?
Yeah.
And I had to visit, it was like in-laws.
Yeah.
Like my ex.
Yeah.
And I hadn't been there before, so there was lots of visiting and like every single place.
You have a cup of tea. Yeah. You have to have a cup of tea. If you don't drink tea.
My bladder was like it was out of sorts.
Yeah.
Like
if you
driving
don't,
around, I'd have to stop.
Yeah. If you don't drink tea, people think there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
like,
right.
And then if you say, no, I don't have a coffee. No. What do you drink? I'll have a glass of water. Water?
Really?
You'll make people on edge.
Glass of water?
Yeah. My brother-in-law, he didn't drink tea, and when he first came to my house, like, basically, we didn't know this. We had him in the living room, and we were sitting chatting to him, and my mum was, like, in hysteria in the kitchen, running around. He doesn't drink tea, he doesn't drink milk, he doesn't drink coffee. And she was like, I can't just give him a glass of water. Like, that's weird.
Because it's, like, not hospitable, like.
Yeah, and it's not like he won't sit with a glass of water for an hour, whereas a cup of tea, you can keep filling it with the pot. Yeah. So she was like, he's a freak. Like,
there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Get him out.
Yeah. So then when he left, I remember her saying to my sister, like, what's his story? Why doesn't he drink tea? And
that was a proper thing.
Yeah, and like my sister was like, he just doesn't drink tea, it's grand. And she was like, no, you'd want to watch him.
Something's not right.
Yeah. And I think they're like 15 years married. Finally my mum's relaxed. He'll drink herbal tea just for her.
He still doesn't drink tea.
No. Yeah. But he'll have a peppermint tea just to calm her down.
Is that'd be worse than water up there, wouldn't it?
Well, no, peppermint tea is all right. Like, because it's hot and there's a process, and she could make a pot of water. It's the whole thing of just giving him tap water.
But 20 years ago, you'd be like,
oh yeah,
hunted out of the village.
And
like-
coffee wouldn't have been... Coffee scene is big now in Ireland, whereas before, some people who don't drink tea will drink a coffee. Whereas 20 years ago, no one was drinking coffee. Like, not in your house. You might
Really?
drink... Yeah, that's a fancy thing.
But not even like a Nescafe.
Yeah, probably a Nescafe. Someone would be able to ring up a Nescafe for you.
Right.
But still, you'd be kind of odd drinking a Nescafe.
Really? Well, people would think like you're
Yeah, you're
like,
a bit fancy.
yeah, snooty or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
He's
right.
probably English.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, that's why I can imagine you were just teed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I think I had 7. Well, there were 7 visits.
Yeah.
And there's minimum 1 cup of tea at each.
Minimum.
But you have to have it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I felt like I had to have
Yeah.
it.
And then you have like biscuits and cakes and
Yeah. And
It's
lots
the
of
whole
milk,
thing.
lots of sugar
Yeah.
in the tea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't dare ask for black. I kind of like felt
No,
like,
you're probably
yeah.
weird.
Mm.
Milk is okay. Sugar, like, you could get away with no sugar, but if you were having black tea, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's going to get round town again.
Yeah. He's drinking black tea.
What part of Ireland? did you
I'm
go
from
to?
Dublin.
Okay.
So I'm from the capital,
Yes.
and then on the north side. So there's a big divide. You're either north sider or south sider.
I was down in Kerry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
So
very nice.
gorgeous. Like, it's a beautiful part of Ireland, but it'd be quite rural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like we went back to the family home
Yeah.
that people still lived in, and it had electricity.
Oh, yeah.
But like the old,
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
that
Proper old.
the father-in-law grew up in.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a stone
Yeah.
dwelling, like, and there's just like this raised bit where like the whole family slept.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, and
It would have
Yeah.
been probably where they cooked and had a fire and everything.
I think the fire's underneath, right?
Yeah, and
'Cause it
that's
makes the
what.
bedding warm.
Yeah.
Like it's proper old
Yeah.
school, and it is it
There wouldn't be many of those left.
right?
Yeah, like there'd be quite heritage sites now
I'm trying to remember where it was.
in Kerry.
Yeah, because it's down by the water, and
Wouldn't it be Dingle? Was it Dingle?
no. So Dingle's like south, and then
Yeah.
there's the mountain pass. So it's the other side of the mountain pass.
Oh, right, okay.
Ballyhaig, that's the golf course.
Oh, yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's sort of maybe 20-30 minutes
From there. Okay, so you're even
think.
more like rural than that.
It was super rural because they went to they were in a in the pub that he grew up with.
Yeah.
And my ex was there, and her daughter, sorry, my ex's sister, his
Yeah.
daughter,
Yeah.
and there was these old blokes there, and they were drinking Guinness, and they had the sugar sachets.
Oh, yeah.
They'd drink Guinness, and they'd rip the top off the sugar sachet and
And eat the sugar.
just take the sugar, and then
I've never heard of that.
they
It's just a
I think they were.
random thing.
I'm not saying it's an Irish.
No,
thing,
okay.
but
I was like,
think these
maybe
two
I've
were weird.
missed out.
But the Sinead, the
Yeah.
sister-in-law, she was like she was like a strong
Yeah,
looking
yeah.
girl, and
Yeah.
and these old guys really like that because they'll be like, oh, she was talking to her dad like
Yeah.
she looks strong, like she can do a lot around the farm,
Yeah,
sort
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing, and he was like, yeah. She helps me at work sometimes in
Yeah.
the building, and they're like, oh yeah, really, like, and they started to sort of negotiate,
Oh, yeah.
like, do they still do dowries and stuff?
Yeah, not now, but
Well,
they
this
would
dude-
have, like.
Well, he was saying like, I'd give you 3 horses, sort of thing.
Stop.
But then, like, I don't know how serious it was,
Or
and how much
they're
they're sort of
joking.
winding her
Yeah.
up, and she was getting like edgy, and he was like, "And where are these horses? Like,
Yeah.
like, can we look at them?" Sort of
Yeah,
thing?
what quality
she-
horses?
yeah.
You know, they would have done that now a lot back in the day, especially in the farming, kind of any farming village. Like, a strong woman would have been like a desired woman.
Right.
And then there probably would be a dowry, like whether it's the farm animals, livestock, or even land. Like, the more land a farmer had, the more attractive his daughters would be.
Right.
Yeah.
But how long ago would that have stopped?
You're probably talking that would have been maybe the 60s.
7 or 8 years ago? Or...
Yeah, it was actually only yesterday. No, 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And then I suppose it depends how rural you are. If you're talking about really rural, then that all happened much later. Like, that kind of industrial revolution would have happened much later. So they would still have a lot of traditions, which is kind of a pity that we're losing all that stuff. Like, even the Irish language, for example, we're losing that. There's pockets of Ireland where they still really only speak Irish. but there's not many. But like once that dies, then we'll lose the language.
All the road signs down that way were in Gaelic.
And they're still today. So every road sign, even on the big motorways, will always have, it's bilingual. It's always English and Irish. And they have to do that. Otherwise, like the language will die. Because you learn it in school. You learn it all the way up to end of high school.
Okay.
Yeah. It's compulsory.
That's good.
Yeah, it is. But the emphasis was always on the written. So they've changed that now. They're trying to change it that it's 60% is on your the oral language, because they would rather people speak it and don't worry about the grammar of the writing of it.
Because it gets passed on.
Yeah, because
right?
if you can keep the language alive by speaking it, it will survive. But if you fixate on the grammar and how you're writing it, and if it's not correct and it's this, there's not this and that, then people will just not bother.
And they probably find it becomes something they don't like.
Yeah, it's like learning French or learning German and learning all your tenses. Whereas if they're trying to keep it very much that it's a spoken language. So what if it's not a written language? Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, no, it is change.
How did you say your last name then? Because everyone must ask you that.
Yeah, Nick Owlov.
Nick Owlov.
Yeah, so I'm Maire Nick Owlov. So Nick, the NIC is that changes for me and my brother. So I'm Maire Nick Owlov, but my brother will be Colm Mock Owlov. So it's Nick means daughter of. So Owlov is the family name. Okay. So my brothers are all Mocks, son of Owlov, and all the girls are Nick, daughter of Owlov. And then my mum, she'd be Vic, which means wife of Owlov. So we all change. But apparently that's common in like Indian language. I didn't realise. The girls will also have that kind of something that indicates that they're the daughter of, and then the sons will have son of. And then like, what is it? Is it the Finnish? They have like daughter. Yeah. They're like
John's daughter.
Yeah.
And John's son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're the same. Them, the Icelandic and Finnish.
Yeah, Icelandic definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep it like that. So similar to us.
Yeah, because in Brazil, actually, a friend of mine, his last name, I can't remember this, is Braga, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then if you're the next generation or something like that, then you're Braga.
Oh, so you carry it down.
And then I think you can go Braga, and then Neto. Or I don't know if that was just his family, I might have got that wrong. But from memory, this is what he was sort of explaining.
And that, like, so if we lose the Irish language, we will also lose those traditions.
Which is basically changing your name.
Yeah. Because I have an English version. So I'm Maire Nick Owlov. So that's Maire McCauley. But
that's what the Mac means.
Yeah, but that's anglicised. So we would have always been Mock Owlovs. So my brothers are Colm Mock Owlov, but Mock Owlov got anglicised to Macaulay over time. So that's just literally the son's name.
Like McGregor.
Yeah.
So
all the Macs. Now, depends. Some of them will be Celtic, like they'll be Scottish. So they wouldn't have changed, but anyone who's a Mock usually means son of. But where were all the daughters? So the daughters are all lost. So it's all, your family name just becomes Mocks, which Mocks is son.
Which you should have been Nick's.
Yeah, then you've got Nick Owleys. But
right.
So that's kind of part of the language that they don't want to lose. Like if you have an Irish name or if you have an Irish surname, that you try and keep it. Yeah.
I think that's important. Like, there's identity in that.
Yeah.
And I guess also, given, I don't know, the Ireland's fight for independence in a way, right?
Yeah.
Historically.
To lose all the Irish and everything to become anglicised, then like names of towns, names of villages, of people, they were always to describe the area. But when it gets anglicised, you lose that. Like Dublin in Irish is Balla Clia, which means town of Clia, but that has no link with Dublin.
Right.
So that's describing the area, but then once you translate it to English to Dublin, Dublin doesn't describe the area. So you've lost why it was initially called that. So there is a lot of a kind of a revolution or a revival going on in Ireland at the moment, where they're trying to bring back the Irish words so that you understand why a place was called a certain name or why the Irish name existed, because it describes the culture or the tradition of that town or that area for what it was famous for, whatever it was known for. So they're trying to revive that so that people know and don't lose that part of it, because it's like a dictionary or a Pictionary for the whole of Ireland.
Yeah. But it's also like, I don't know, it's kind of like, I don't know if it's right to say it must be like, because you always think of Indigenous people as like sort of the original landowners. Well, there's the original sort of true-blooded Irish, Celtic, Celtic peoples, and then the English law sort of came over and traditions and right.
And it would have happened initially with the Vikings and the Celts as well. When they came in, they would have changed us. Like, we have a lot of names like Depur, like, which are power. So those names were actually Viking names. So we got invaded with them first. So then that's why we have a lot of the Celtic tradition still. And then the English came in. So like we've had a lot of kind of invaders that have made us who we are and our heritage. But yeah, if you just clear it all out and turn it all to English, then you're even losing all that history as well. Yeah,
I didn't know that. I didn't do history. So the Vikings conquered
Ireland. So a lot, because of our coast, a lot of our coast, like a lot of our coastal towns, they would have been the first that they were hit, and that they were like Vikings. We have loads of architecture. We have loads of artifacts like left over from the Vikings. So they conquered it and ruled the land for a lot of the coastal towns. They may not have gone inward, because they would have been fishermen rather than farmers. So they would have kind of stayed along the coasts of Ireland, but not gone inward.
What, for like centuries?
Yeah. I think you're talking like anything from 13th century. Now I could be wrong. Onwards, that was when the Vikings were really kind of hitting Ireland.
Right, and they kind of ruled the coast.
Yeah.
And then some of the Irish retreated and
we would have had then loads of like our lords who controlled the land. And then when the English came in, all the Irish lost the land. So we never owned anything. So like all the big like kind of big heritage sites left in Ireland, they're all English owned but not Irish owned. So we all became the tenants and not the landowners. So that's why, like, even today, tradition, it's kind of mad how it still follows through. Irish people are obsessed with buying houses because they want to own their piece of land, because we had a lot of our land taken off us. So there's that real, like, I know, like, say, for example, Spain, they will rent their properties for 50 years. You can get leases, long leases.
The French as well, they're not big owners of property.
They're fine to rent. Like, I think you can get up to 99-year leases and stuff. None of that exists in Ireland. Rental is only a means to own. You want to own your property. You want to own your land. And I think but it is, I would say, left over from when our land was taken off us. Yeah. So the psyche still remains.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's originally a lot of Irish sort of went to Australia back in the day.
Yeah.
That's a very Australia has that thing, right?
Culture. They want to own their piece of land.
Yeah, everyone's parents will be telling you, you've got to get a property.
Get on the housing market. Yeah.
Which there's some truth to it.
It just, if there was long leases, I think it would still work that way. But just because no one rents for length, or no one gives you rental places for a long time, then you have to get on the market. There's this pressure to get on the market. Yeah.
Oh, I just remember when you were talking about like the names of different places and the Gaelic names.
Yeah.
The town one of the towns that we were sort of close to was Tralee.
Oh yeah.
And they have the Rose of Tralee.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
and
it still exists.
Yeah, and it's like I might be getting mixed up with that. And then which one's with the goat?
No, that's the Rose of Tralee. Yeah.
Not the Puck County Fair?
Well, they also have a goat for that, but I think the Rose of Tralee also originated around that time. So there was a goat involved in the Rose of Tralee as well. So it's basically a beauty pageant. It's a
the Rose of Tralee is a beauty pageant.
Yeah, glorified beauty pageant.
But the goat, or the Puck County Fair or something,
Puck Fodder. Yeah.
Then they put a goat in a cage and hoist it up?
And I think you win it. I think the whole purpose of that is that you win the goat at the end. So the Puck Fodder or the Puck County Fair is like, it would have been, you would use the hurl and the schlitter and go as far as you can, and whoever hit the furthest wins.
Okay, so like the hurling, just like a distance competition.
Yeah, distance competition.
And whoever hits the ball the furthest, what's it called?
Puck Fodder. Fada means long and puck means hit.
Okay.
So the longest hit.
And then you get the goat.
I imagine it would have been for the goat. Now there could have been like a series of things. It could have been like the Celtic Games. It could have been that you not just the puck fada. There was other competitions
Like
that
a camber toss. Of
yeah,
some sort,
exactly. Or whether I'm not sure, 100% sure now whether the Rose Tralee would have been linked to it, and then if you won the Rose Tralee as well, like whether you won the goat.
Oh, so maybe each sort of region would have had their own like little mini games
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because the goat gets lifted up in a cage.
Yeah.
And it's
On
probably,
display.
Yeah, like for a week or something.
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
does it come down to
I don't know if
eat?
whether they still do that.
If it shits, must be no one goes under. You never go under the goat.
I'd say maybe they take it down every day. They couldn't leave the thing up there for the week.
Back in the day, though, right?
Never know.
If you're competing for the goat, you want to get a
healthy
goat,
goat, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And I'd say it was goat because I'd say goats were more desired in Kerry, as in, like, they're hardier. They can live anywhere. They can live on next to nothing.
Were they milking them and stuff?
Yeah,
like
they would
that?
use it for everything. They would use their
Eating?
milk, their butter. I don't think that we wouldn't eat a lot of goat.
Yeah.
So I'd say it'd be too lucrative to kill it.
Right.
You'd be better off keeping it and using it for its milk, its butter, its and even whether or not would you get much goat hair? Yeah, maybe goat hair, but not for wool. More for probably making like brushes and bristles and stuff.
Yeah, right.
So it'd be more lucrative to keep the goat as opposed to killing it. Whereas a sheep you'd kill.
Right.
Yeah, for the lamb eventually. Or
Yeah,
for the
because
meat.
his name was John, and in London they call him Kerry John.
Oh yeah.
And-
Very original.
but he lived in Zone 4,
Yeah.
and they had like a nice garden.
Yeah.
And he had something like 20 chickens,
Yeah.
depending on how many.
This in London?
Yes.
Stop.
In Zone 4 though, right?
You're a
so
good
it's
bit out.
sort of you're out.
Yeah.
3 dogs, 2 dogs, 2 dogs, 3 cats, and a goat.
Stop.
Fucking goat. And like, I swear, like when
And
it
he
was,
had a garden. He must have had a garden.
yeah,
Okay.
it was a long
Yeah,
garden. But the goat, like it was like friendly, but
Yeah.
I think goats can only be so friendly,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's things that
They wouldn't be
goats want to
cuddly.
do, right?
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
and, like you know, like a dog sort of plays like this and
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of goes, like
Yeah.
that. Like a goat, like butts you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the play.
Yeah.
Like it would get up on its hind legs.
Yeah, and
like,
then-
horns became like face level, and then kind of like go like that,
Yeah,
sort
yeah.
of into you.
Was it a male goat?
Yes.
Must have been. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they would do that to like release testosterone.
Yes.
They would do that like to play. Yeah.
That
Yeah.
fucking thing was releasing testosterone everywhere. There was a tarpaulin on the
Yeah.
on the chicken coop.
Yeah.
It would release testosterone on that. I don't know what was attractive about it. And when it was on heat,
Yeah.
like, because have you ever smelt a goat on heat?
No,
It's
God.
so fucking strong. like I don't know how the neighbours were cool with it. Like you could smell it sometimes
Oh,
5 or
God.
6 houses down.
And he never taught to mate it, like to get a female goat.
How many? There's no fucking goats in London.
No, I don't know where he even got the goat. He probably brought it over from Kerry.
Right.
Kerry John.
So like, before I smelt a goat on heat, I didn't mind goat's cheese. But now, like, there's like a real distinctive scent. I can't have goat's
It's ruined.
cheese.
It's ruined
It's
for you.
ruined. Yeah. Like,
I
it's
like
just-
goat's cheese as well.
But once you smell a goat on heat,
You can never unsmell it.
well, it's that
Association.
muskiness.
Oh God.
It's in the cheese.
Oh God.
Yeah.
No, I've never smelled a goat on heat.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
But he was so proud of the goat, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, because he'd go down to local and a lot of pubs in London,
Yeah.
you go to an Irish pub, right?
Yeah.
And he would drink there, and
Yeah.
I think, you know,
Everyone would be
knew
like,
about
"How's the goat?"
Yeah.
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 Because I would say, to be honest, he's probably one of the few who have a goat in London.
I didn't even know if you'd be allowed to, I don't know.
Yeah, I wonder.
No
if-
hoofed animals within Zone 6 or
Yeah.
something, I don't know.
I would wonder how he got it. It was probably he would have had to get it in the UK, I'd say.
Yeah, no, I think it's quite nice actually. I don't know if he knew, but he got it for his birthday.
Ah.
So I don't know if they went out to get it or his
Yeah,
his
yeah.
wife's idea, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think she knew that.
He wanted one.
Or no, that he loved them when he was little and
Yeah,
stuff
he
like
grew
that.
up with it.
Yeah, and I think they went to further out. There was some sort of sanctuary or where people might bring them if they can't look after them anymore. So it wasn't a baby.
Okay, he didn't have it like a baby goat.
So he had to like tame it a bit, I guess, right? You would have known that. Like he grew up on the farm, like it's just
but still, life. I think even breaking animals in, like that's quite tough. He would have had to give it a lot of love and attention.
But he was a tough dude because like sometimes he'd get me to help to do stuff. Right? And he's a builder. Like, and where most people... I remember we had to put a deadlock in or something. And, like, you know, there's some... You drill into the door frame.
Yeah.
And they're quite long, right? Because no one wants to kick your door in. And those bolts, sometimes they're not sort of flush.
Yeah.
Like, I personally went to pick up a mallet and give it a knock in.
Yeah.
And he's... just starts smashing it with like the heel of his palm. Like
that's like every Irish man. They think they can fix anything. Look at that now. I don't be hiring somebody to do that now. I'll do that. I'll fix that, and nothing gets fixed.
my friend's dad was like that. He just in his mind, there was no need for anyone to be a professional. No. Like he wouldn't take his car to the mechanic.
He'd fix it himself.
He didn't go to the dentist for 20 years.
Because he didn't need to, in his mind.
They looked all right, his teeth, but his wife made him go, right?
Oh, jeez.
And then he went there, and he said to the dentist, what do you think of those ones at the back? And the dentist was like, he's not Irish. He's just someone who thinks that he can fix everything. Yeah. And he goes, and the dentist goes, I can see you've had a bit of work there, but it looks like a good job. So he was just like...
Delighted. He did it himself?
With a nail file.
He
chipped them and used the nail file.
To shave them down?
Yeah.
Oh, stop.
So maybe he had a bit of Irish.
Yeah, and if he's Australian, he probably was an ex-Irish convict or something.
Could be. Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah, I wouldn't be doing that now, filing my teeth.
So then in Ireland, we were talking about before, like... the English. Yeah, like, I mean, everyone of your age would have lived through some experience of, like troubled times, right? The IRA sort of fight for independence. And
I think we were quite privileged. Like, my husband, he's from the northwest of Ireland, so Donegal. So he's still considered the south. It's the Republic. Mm-hmm. But where I'm from, in Dublin, like, we were very privileged in the sense we were so removed from it. It didn't affect us.
It wasn't in Dublin?
No, like as in not growing up in the 80s, right? It was definitely more prolific in the 60s. There would have been a lot of the troubles. But for him, he borders a northern county. Okay. So he remembers lots of stuff happening. He remembers like a bomb, the Oma bombing. Like that was a really... I
remember that.
Yeah, like a lot of people would remember that. It wasn't close enough to my doorstep for it to leave a mark. Like I remember it happened, but it didn't ever happen to anyone I knew. Whereas like Liam remembers, it was a school from his town had gone to Oma on the day, and so a lot of like there were a younger grade than him, but a lot of his peers were blown up in that.
Really?
Like whereas it never happened to me.
What happened? Maire again?
So there was a bomb, and the sad thing, it was a lot of kids were killed. So there was a bomb from they think it was an IRA bomb, but they rang up and they tipped off to tell them where the bomb was, but they messed up. It was in a car, so they told everyone, or maybe I'm getting this wrong, either they told everyone to go up the street away from the car or to go down the street towards the car, but whichever it was, they messed up. The bomb was where they told everyone to go. So that's what was really sad, that they did tip off, but they messed up the tip off.
Right.
So they actually put the people towards the bomb. And a lot of these were school kids that were down in Oma for a day trip. And there was a lot of kids were killed.
I don't know why the number 60 comes to mind. Was it something like 60 people?
It could be a lot like that, because it's etched in our history, because there was a lot of fatalities. With all these bombs through the Troubles, you might get 1 or 2 or less than 10 right at a time, but that one was big because of the mistake. They pushed the people to it.
Because they used to do that, like that was the thing. They'd set these bombs,
but then they'd tip it off.
Yeah. So what?
So it was to say, like, basically, don't forget about us. Like, we're still here and we're still active. but they wouldn't really want to have huge fatalities.
Right.
And, you know, to be honest, a lot of it was against the paramilitaries. So it'd be against the British Army.
Right, against their presence, against their outpost or whatever it was.
And like, get out of our country, we don't need you ruling our country, or we don't need you in there disciplining our people. And there was both, like the British military were terrible, the IRA, the sectarian groups were terrible. No one was playing fair. So, it, you know, it didn't matter which side you were on, like everybody was doing wrong, you know.
29 people, 220 injured.
How many were kids?
It was the deadliest single incident of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. Telephoned warnings which did not specify the actual location had been sent 40 minutes beforehand, but police inadvertently moved people toward the bomb.
So they didn't tip off exactly where it was, and then the police didn't know, and they moved the people towards it.
The victims included many people of many backgrounds and ages. I can't read. Protestants, Catholics, 6 teenagers, 6 children, a woman pregnant with twins, and
it was
2
just
Spanish
really
tourists. Yeah. Right.
So that's why it's the deadliest.
Yeah.
So
and they were kind of. So I mean, obviously, like the IRA, Irish Republican Army, like a lot of governments would have considered them a terrorist group sort of thing, right? Like,
so nowadays they would be as, like, if the Troubles had been going on now as bad as they were in the 60s, they would have been up there with the likes of ISIS, because it was like, it wasn't suicide bombers, but it was bombs. And like, that was day-to-day life for the north of Ireland. Was like, you'd be in town and there'd be a bomb scare, you'd have to leg it and run away, or you'd have to get out of a certain area, and that'd be just normal life, which is mad to think, like, you know, that was how people got on with it, you know.
But I can't see, like, if people don't agree with it, like I don't know how bad the oppression was, right? Like, so, like, Nelson Mandela was considered a terrorist as well, right? With pretty bloody good reason. Apartheid's kind of not a cool
thing,
concept at all. But, like, back then, he was a terrorist, do you know what I mean? And obviously he was a great man and helped massively overcome fucking horrible rules and laws in that country. Like, how bad was the oppression? Was there mass oppression? Was it?
Yeah, I think it goes right back to the 1800s, like, where
no dogs, no Irish sort of thing, signs and stuff like that.
And it goes back to, so you're talking about even 1916. So 1916 is when we signed this treaty. So Ireland was split. So the north of Ireland was owned by the British, and it goes back to Home Rule in the 1800s, and then in the 1900s, Ireland signed this agreement that we would allow the English to have 6 counties in Ireland, and then 26 would remain the south. And this is where things got really civil. It was brothers fighting brothers, because people didn't agree with that. Some people didn't want those 6 counties to go to the British, and other people were happy that it was going to end this long-term war from the 1800s between the Irish and the British. But then that became a civil disagreement. So now you've got the South fighting amongst themselves about whether they agree with giving up these 6 counties or whether you don't. And that's where then the IRA was always there, the Irish Republican Army was always there. But then this is where it became almost sectarian, where you have brothers fighting each other, like on the same, who had been on the same side, who are now. And then that followed all the way through for 50 years. And in those 50 years, it got very messy. So a lot of people forgot what they're fighting about, and the IRA became like a terrorist group and a sectarian group, as opposed to this army that they were supposed to have been defending the Irish country. They were actually then just unruly. And then now they still exist now, and they've changed their name, and you've got the real IRA, and a lot of them are involved in drugs and drug running, and a lot of them were involved in arms running, and they were getting arms sent from the US to Ireland. Like it got very messy over time. So what it originally stood for and was invented or kind of concepted for, it was very different to what it is now. So I think that's where, you know, people are like, oh, would they be considered a terrorist group now versus, you know, 60 years ago? Maybe not, but they were the way they've kind of evolved is very different. So even if you, like, if you were pro IRA in the 1900s, you wouldn't be pro them now because of how they've changed, and they're unruly, and they're not acting for the people anymore. They're acting like they're thieves as well. Like they rob banks and rob ATM. Like, you know what I mean? It's become very much now like a gang.
Like a criminal organisation.
More than
that would like Ireland to remain Ireland.
Yeah, and they use that as their kind of their ethos. But yes, that's what but you've completely deviated from the path that you were invented for or what you were created for.
So 1800s, like when you said war in 1800s, but is it like when I think of war, I think of like, you know, two sides like shooting at each other, and there was like front, what do they call it?
Like
is it the
trenches
line?
and stuff? Yeah,
trenches.
No, we never really had it like World War One or anything like that. But in 1916, we had the Easter Rising. So in 1916, there was a full shootout in the south between the Irish and the English. And that was like, you know, so in 2016 they had their centennial year commemorating. Lots of people died, lots of Irish died.
Is that Bloody Sunday?
No, so that's the recent troubles. So you're talking about in the 60s. That would have been Bloody Sunday, where lots of people were killed unnecessarily. But that was the British Army shooting at civilians. And that's why that's very well known, because it's a lot of people, like there's famous photos of a priest with a white flag and he's getting shot. So that's where you've got then people supporting the IRA, because of when the British Army did bad things, the IRA were defending and saying, well, we're kind of retaliating for the British Army when they've done bad things. But that was Bloody Sunday. Right. So that was, like civilians were getting killed and shot. And then what happened after that was the British Army planted the bodies with guns and nail bombs. So people were dead, civilians completely like unrelated to any kind of sectarian group. And because they had been shot in cold blood, right, they planted things on their bodies
to cover it up.
Yeah, and then there was inquiries, and each inquiry that they had after the event all fell through, and this went on and on and on. So that was one of the things that they had to resolve in order for the Good Friday Agreement, for peace to be in Ireland, was that all those names had to be cleared.
Oh, and recognition of the wrongdoings that your British Army have done.
Yeah. That none of them were guilty. None of them were, because it was proven over and over again, but each inquiry fell through because each judge or whoever it was that was ruling it would not want to have the conviction to say, yeah, you have to admit you did wrong, that you planted this. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So, like, when you go back through that, you can see why there's been episodes, and, like, some people are still very much anti the Queen, anti the British rule. And like it could have been things had been done to their families, you know, or they've lost people, or so you can see why there is still some resentment in Ireland towards the British, and predominantly the royal family is where they're taken out on the Queen. They don't want English money. They don't want the Queen on their money. They don't want it on their stamps, anything like that. And then you've got half of Ireland who have to be forced because of the location you live. It's considered the north, so you have to respect that you're paid by the Queen, you're paying your taxes to the Queen.
So there's a lot of people in the north that don't want the British.
Yeah. Okay. So that's where the trouble still exists.
Right.
Is people who want to be joined with the south, and then people who want to stay joined with the UK.
But it's mainly now non-violent political talk and stuff like that. Yeah. Like maybe there'd be a fight in a pub because somebody's sort of...
Or a shooting or something.
Still,
the odd shooting, yeah. You could definitely still have that. And then when Brexit kicked in, that stirred up a lot of stuff, because Brexit meant that now whatever was going to happen in terms of Brexit meant that it would happen to the whole north of Ireland. So were we going to have a physical border again? Were we going to be segregated all over again? Were you going to bring back the British Army to man that physical border? Because now you're talking about a non-EU country. So you're saying those 6 counties were now going to be non-EU. So we're going to have to need a visa to go from an EU country to a non-EU, and you could just live across a road, and that road is EU and that road is non-EU.
A bit like the Berlin Wall.
Yeah.
Just there it is, that's the line, don't cross it.
Yeah.
Unless
and that's what a lot of people,
a
lot of people like my mum's generation were very fearful that was going to come back. And if you have a physical border, you have a physical presence, which means you would have the British Army coming back in to man that. So there was a lot of unrest at that time when Brexit had been voted in, and what was that going to mean for the island of Ireland. But thankfully it didn't, and they've always said since that there will never be, well, the Good Friday Agreement is that there will never be a physical border and there will never be a physical presence to man that line. So there's a geographical line that cuts us and divides us, but that should remain only a geographical line.
So you don't need documentation to cross, okay.
No, so you can drive up freely, you can come and go as you want, and that should remain. So that's what there was unrest about when Brexit kicked in.
Right.
Now, there's still differences in terms of Brexit, like there's tax and VAT even on this geographical line, but there's no physical presence, which is what everyone wants.
It'll never get back to where it was, right? Like,
no.
It's past that, like...
It's too embedded. What they thought maybe would happen with Brexit it might unite Ireland, that actually we'd get those 6 counties back. But what they get from the British is it's too embedded. They've got a healthcare system that's different to us. They've got a school system that's different to us. They've got, a government system that's different to us. They've got money, like their currency is different to us. That's so long in the tooth now that if they were to remove that, like the South, we couldn't actually afford the North anymore. We wouldn't be able to bring in hospitals to start everything from scratch. So to be honest, I actually think the South don't want a united Ireland anymore in terms of logistics. Right. Because there's how many people? There's 1.something million living up there that we'd have to take onto our healthcare system that's already a bit of a mess. So I don't see a united Ireland, not in my lifetime. So not in the next 56 years.
So for example, up there in the north, they're not learning any Gaelic at all, right?
No. So they, I've good friends of mine who live here, and I'll say something to them in Irish and they're like, no idea what you said. Right. But they consider themselves Irish. They have Irish passports, but they live in the north, and they're Catholics who live in the north, but they don't have any of the language. And it's sad. It's just the system.
And it is a religious war originally, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's kind of still, there's still you'll have pockets of Ireland or of in the north which are Catholic and Protestant, and they're still fighting for that.
Like the Orange March.
Yeah.
Because I worked in a pub as a second job when I first went to London, and the governor or the boss of the pub, he was a Protestant.
Yeah.
And
so 14th of July.
Well, he was a feisty, pretty crazy dude. He had nicks all over his back from Stanley knives, because he used to go to the Old Firm Derby, right?
Yeah.
Which that confused me. That Scottish football
has taken on the Irish
because he was like Rangers, and then when they play Celtic, they'd go and they'd fight, and they'd cut each other, and it was all part of the fun by the sounds of it. And he was saying. He was going back for the march. Yeah. He did the Orange March.
Yeah.
And
so that's on the 14th of July.
He invited me to come back.
Yeah. Did you go?
No.
Okay.
Because he was kind of
he'd be very proud. They're very proud. They want to march.
Yeah, he was it's good. He didn't see anything wrong with it, and I didn't know enough about it, right?
Yeah.
But he was it'll be a good cultural experience and stuff like that, and all I know is sort of what I've seen on the news, and that there's troubles, and it's just
the main issue with it is they want to march through a Catholic area. So
when they say march, though,
it's a band,
like,
and they march.
It's not like militant, right? It's a bit
Well,
more like
yeah, and they're all playing their bands, yeah. And the whole issue that causes trouble on the day is because they want to go down the Catholic road and this Catholic area. So they're basically saying we want to flaunt it in your face.
Right.
And it comes from the Orange, William of Orange, the day he won a battle. That's how long it goes back. I think it's the 1800s. They're celebrating the day the Protestants, the William of Orange, won this battle. So they're
against
like,
Catholics.
yeah, and then became the leader and the oppressor. But like the whole point was, why do you have to march down a Catholic area? Just stay in your area and it'll be fine. But they're adamant this is the route that they marched, and we want to continue the route
Because from their point of view, it's tradition.
Yes,
They've always walked through
and
here.
we won. So on that day, we won. So we have the right to march.
Let us have our day.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But then it always well, I think it's settled a bit more. There's always apprehension on this day that there will be a fight or an argument or
So they still march.
yeah. But to like say for the last maybe 5-10 years there hasn't been massive riots at it, so it has settled a bit. So they're allowed to march, but there's a lot of police presence.
Right.
So there's a lot of people like policemen in the areas.
But it'd be a lot of Catholic people basically shouting stuff, and there might be a punch up.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Or there could be, before there would have been, if you come down our street, then you take the risk of what might happen on our street, whether it's a bomb, a fight, a knife, you know.
Right.
But there's always been apprehension for this date, but in the last maybe 5 years there hasn't been much arguments or maybe arguments, but nothing like the riots that there used to be before.
Well, he wanted me to go with him in 1999.
Yeah, so that probably would have been a little bit dangerous.
Definitely, I'd need to be like full Kevlar.
Yeah. And with a shaved head, they'd be looking at you going, who are you?
I would say I'm Buddhist.
Yeah. Good
I'm
luck.
Not Catholic, I'm not Protestant.
They'll be like, but which part are you on? Are you a Buddhist Catholic or a Buddhist?
I don't speak English. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh, that probably wouldn't do me much good in the island back in that time.
No. I remember going up to Belfast one time to meet my then boyfriend, now husband, and it just happened there was a march on, but it wasn't the march. It wasn't the 14th July.
So there's other marches?
Yeah, this one was Lundy's Day March. So they celebrate, like the English love to celebrate every battle they've ever won. But this wouldn't be normally carry any trouble with it.
Carl's English.
No, is he? Do you remember all these days?
He's got a marching calendar and outfit.
Do you? He's got a couple of sashes. You want to whip out?
Yeah, they a sash.
Yeah, of course. Yes, the orange sash. Yeah. Yeah. So I rock up and didn't know this march was on, because I don't know every day there's a march, and my husband be kind of because he's from that bordering county, he would be a bit weary and know.
You need to know, right?
Yeah. So he was like to me, oh, just don't wear green and just don't open your mouth. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, well, your accent, you're from the south, and green, just don't be wearing green. So I rock up, didn't know. He's telling me this while I'm on the train, and I rock up in a green hoodie sitting and at the train station, and he was like, I told you not to wear green. I was like, I don't have anything else. I was too late. And he was like, just don't open your mouth.
I'm Irish.
I only wear green. So he was like, just shut your mouth and say nothing. So then he was like, he met me at the train station. He was like, I'll do all the talking. So I literally got in this black cab going around Belfast, and I just had to keep my mouth closed. I was like, I don't know where we're going. But we had no trouble whatsoever. But I then was like, this place, where am I going? I can never go up here again. I can never travel by myself up in this place. Sure, Belfast now is like cultural city. It was one cultural city of the year. It's a vibrant, hip happening, like cool city. A lot of people go there for nights out, and like it's revolved itself, you know. It's really changed.
It's not because it used to be rough.
Yeah.
Like Glasgow used to be
a bit
rough.
Like the two would have been on par with a lot of trouble, and you wouldn't walk down certain areas, you wouldn't open your mouth. As a person from the south, I couldn't be opening my mouth, as like my mum remembers her and her girlfriend going up on the train to Belfast. They were going out to go shopping, and the conductor got them to get off the train and told them you shouldn't be coming up to Belfast on your own. And they were
really?
like, they were two young girls, probably in the 70s, and they were told to get off and go back to the south
just for your own safety.
For your safety. they were like, what are you, like, he asked them, what are you coming up to Belfast for? And they were like, to go shopping. And he was like, nope, get the next train back down.
Shit.
So, like, she remembers that often. So I've never, that's what I mean, like, I've been privileged because I've been so removed in the south to never have to worry about it. And then there's a lot of people who've come out and spoken about it and have said that actually that's irresponsible of us in the south, that we've turned a blind eye to the troubles.
Yeah.
So we let whatever went on happen and just kind of go, well, it doesn't affect me, so I don't need to basically be involved with it or concern myself with it. Which is kind of sad, but it's probably true.
So there was no paramilitaries in the south?
No.
There was no trouble that spilled over, it was all in the north?
Some of the bordering counties, yeah, but never as far down as Dublin. Like we would be a 2-hour drive from Belfast, or from the border. So no, we never.
Right.
Like, there might have been threats, like bomb scares, but never actually anything major. The fighting and that never really happened down there. So yeah, I got away with murder. We were lucky, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Like, I must have seen, like, people from the other side looking over the fence as such. It seemed like a paradise of green rolling hills,
like a different life, right?
And stuff like that.
And they would have all just assumed that whatever was happening on their ground, on their territory, was also happening down on ours, but it wasn't. Like, so we got away with living very different lives.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess, like, for some reason, I sort of, when I think of Ireland in those sort of times, obviously, like, that U2 song, right?
Yeah,
Sunday,
Bloody Sunday,
come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's sort of...
A lot of our culture, a lot of our tradition, our songs, our traditional music, a lot of it is actually all sad, and it's all, like, you know, kind of mellow, because a lot of it is describing, like, terrible things that happened, whether you're talking about the famine or the invasion of the English, or then you're talking about the Troubles. But it's probably why we're very proud of our music and our culture in that sense. But it is, a lot of it would be sad. It would be all, you know, very kind of melancholic songs.
Yeah.
Because they went through tough times.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you sort of hear that in, like, Sinead O'Connor.
Yeah.
It's very melancholic.
Yeah.
Enya?
She's Irish. So a lot of them.
Oh yeah, that's very.
Yeah, it's probably the one of the.
Yeah.
I remember meeting this guy. Sean Roach was his name.
Oh yeah, very Irish name.
Hippie type fellow
Yeah.
in India, and he only had. I had a stack of CDs.
Yeah.
Like, I took my music seriously. I was like, man, if I'm away.
Yeah, I'm bringing it off. Yeah.
He had one CD.
You do.
So I was like, dude, I got to know what this CD is.
Yeah.
It must be amazing. Like, you've only brought one CD, right?
Yeah.
So it was the Dubliners.
Oh yeah.
So every morning he'd play Dubliners, right?
Yeah.
So, and I was dancing to it and enjoying myself. I was like, sure, this is marvellous music,
Yeah.
you know. And he's like, come on, this is a really depressing song. You know, they're explaining, like, the history of what happened.
Listen to the words. Yeah.
I honestly didn't get the story of what was going on, or the context of the history, you know. It was like, I was like, I'm very sorry, and stopped dancing, just sat down. It's pretty
And that's the way they would, like, the Dubliners will sing these songs, and it would be like you sit around the pub and you're all like, you know, crying into your pint kind of thing. It's not like, but it is, some of it can be quite jovial beats, right?
Yeah.
They're all singing along together.
Yeah.
I mean, that,
and everyone knows the song, so everyone's singing. Yeah.
Because, I don't know, like, in Australia they have Irish pubs, but it's like, it's a bit like Disneyland in a way, right? Like, it's not very real. Like, there's Irish scarves and...
Yeah, it's like Irish pubs in Singapore. Yeah.
Right? But, like, when you... I guess the first time I went to a real Irish pub was the first time I went to London.
Oh, yeah.
And it was called the Clather Ring.
Oh, yeah. Great name.
But, like, when I say it was a real Irish pub, like, there was obviously English people in there, but, like, the music was Irish music.
Yeah.
Like, and everyone was, like, singing along that, and there was, like...
People probably playing an instrument.
Like, there was that
a banjo or something.
Banjo, proper banjo music. But, like, it was also, like... fucking tough as fuck. Like I went into the fucking bathroom. Like, I'd never been in London before. It was the first night that I arrived in London. My mate was like, oh, we'll go down the Clather. I was like, yeah, all right, whatever that means. I went to use the bathroom. And, like, you know, it's pretty busy. And this guy just like was just losing his shit, headbutted the fucking paper towel dispenser, dented that, cut himself, and was just like,
just all aggro,
just fucking angry as fuck, and then just like, and then turned around and just like walked out. It's like,
and probably just went back to his pint and was happy.
Yeah, like and like these like outbursts of like hardcore aggression seemed like. It's just how it is in the gutter.
Yeah. Probably wasn't Irish.
To be honest, I don't think it was. But in Irish pubs, like real Irish pubs, there is like there's a happiness. There's a drowning of the sorrows. There's a sing along. Yeah. And there's a fight.
Yeah. There's always a fight.
Yeah.
Somebody's too drunk, or somebody's bashed into somebody, or somebody's just losing their shit for no reason.
There's fights at christenings.
Yeah. Yes, that is common.
Yeah, like Irish like to fight. Like Irish are tough people.
Yeah. And like you think of, we have like kind of history of travelling community, which we call the travellers or the gypsies, like the Romanians. Yes.
Gippos.
Yeah. I was trying to be very PC there.
Have you heard of parvies?
No.
I think some people call them parvies as well.
No, in Ireland it's usually travellers. You're not allowed to call them that anymore. But they would be like your raw knuckle fight. And,
oh yeah.
Yeah, like those. You've seen them. They're in the UK as well, but they're Irish who moved to the UK, and they're still probably travellers from Ireland. And then like they would get married to 12-year-olds, and the 12-year-olds, the girls they have to leave school. But that, like, they'd be the ones at the christenings killing each other and baseball bats and stuff. Yeah,
they fucking go for it.
Yeah.
I've had two real encounters with what should I call them?
The travelling community.
I've had two real encounters with the travelling community, and there's one brilliant story. So I'll start with the brilliant story.
Go.
It was when I around the area where I first lived in London, in Hendon. And I think it was in the local paper, because for people who don't know, the travelling community, or as they call them in Snatch, fucking pikeys, they'll do big crimes, but they'll also do small crimes to sort of get the money into the community and keep the wheels on the road as such, right? So they'll offer to do odd jobs, right? I don't know if you've heard this type of thing, and one of the things is they'll tar the driveway.
Yes.
And they'll do it about that thin and it'll last a couple of weeks. Why anyone wants their fucking driveway tarred?
Yeah.
It's not very nice. These guys asked a lady, convinced her that she needed new tiles on the roof of her house.
Oh, this is really common.
Right?
Yeah.
But what they did was they went around the area and found other people that had gone on holidays.
Yeah, and took their tiles.
They took their tiles and put them onto that roof.
That's it. Or the worst case, like if it's an elderly woman, what they'll do is they'll go up and take the tiles off her roof, so she has less than when she started, and she's paid them like 400 quid.
And just don't put it back.
No, they're using it for another house down the road. Like they were always doing stuff like that. Or your gutters need doing, and they'd go up on a ladder and they'd like either remove your gutters or do nothing. And then like they were forever doing that, knocking on our door.
Yeah, right.
They're just con men, like
Yeah.
scam. They were the ultimate scam artists in Dublin.
Well, I seen this was in Camden, so like busy area.
Yeah.
Like 4, 5 Barbie kids.
Yeah.
Like they were probably 12.
Yeah.
Just beating the shit out of a 40-year-old businessman.
Oh god.
Like, and people not doing nothing.
Yeah, because you wouldn't know. You see, the thing is, you'd be afraid they'd have a knife
Yeah.
or a syringe or something, and that's why a lot of people will actually not intervene, because you just don't know what they're up to, what they might have.
Yeah. So then the other time that I encountered them was when I worked in this pub.
Yeah.
In this, and it was a pretty rough pub.
Yeah.
Like.
You be careful what you say and what you do. Yeah.
Yeah. Like basically, because when you work behind the bar, there were security guards Friday and Saturday night. But other than that, you were the security guard, right? Like one guy tried to glass me, like cause just trying to break up a fight.
Yeah,
like, you kind of just had to do it. I seen girls smashing each other with pool cues. It was a rough pub. It was a rough pub.
Yeah.
So that guy Trevor, he was the one that was Protestant.
Yeah.
He was away.
Good Protestant name, Trevor.
So someone else was managing all the bookings. And there was this big sort of side room.
Yeah.
So whilst he was away, someone took a booking for a christening
Oh, and didn't check.
from someone with a very heavy Irish accent.
Oh, and probably John Joe is his name or something.
They were all
Yes.
like travellers.
Yeah.
So like they came in, they all
Trevor wouldn't have let that booking happen.
he stayed upstairs. He couldn't be downstairs because you don't know what he's going to say.
Yeah,
'Cause he was a man of action.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
he
gosh.
wasn't afraid of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
So they brought their own beer and stuff like that, but they also paid a lot.
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
thing
yeah.
Like that, and bought a lot of beers,
Yeah.
and there was fucking loads of them, and they just took over this like side room, a big room, and they ordering from the bar, and like someone would come up and go, "I'll have 40 half pints," and I'll be like,
What?
"Do you want 20 full pints?"
Yeah.
And they'd be like,
No,
"No,
140
half
half.
pints." All right. He's just like, that takes a while to
Yeah.
pull, and just sort of like feed them up, and then I'd ring it in on the register and go, that's whatever.
Yeah.
And like the men would go in the pocket, the women would go in here,
Yeah.
and they just put the money on the thing like that.
It's all cash.
Scrunched up.
Yeah,
bills,
all coins,
like,
whatever.
Yeah. But they wouldn't count it. Like
No.
I don't know if they could count it.
And actually, I think you're right. I think a lot of them actually couldn't read or write.
Yeah.
So a lot of them didn't know how much the value
Yeah.
that you were asking or how much they had.
Well, that was it, right?
Yeah.
So after a while, you'd be sort of like
I need to
counting
check
it back
this.
like that,
Yeah.
and sort of giving it back to them and giving their change, and then just scrunch and shove it back down here.
Yeah.
So then after like 3 or 4 rounds,
Yeah.
like everyone behind the bar's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So they'd like hand over the scrunch of cash, and you'd be, "Oh, yeah, here's your
Yeah,
change."
because they actually don't know how much money they have.
Yeah, so they were expensive beers, but they got their money's worth because I think they ended up. They're supposed to be. This was like a Sunday.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be out by 11 or
Yeah,
some
yeah,
shit. You couldn't say nothing.
You had to stay
You
serving
had,
them.
to 2 a.m. or something like that. Because if you say anything to them,
Cutting them off could lead to a lot of trouble.
yes,
Yeah.
like proper
Yeah.
trouble, not like a punch.
No.
Yeah.
No, they'd probably leave, come back with baseball bats, and you'd know all about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just get a glass in the face. Right
Yeah,
on
or
the
your
spot.
whole bar would be burnt down.
Yeah.
Or you never know.
They don't give a fuck.
No,
huh?
because they have no address, so they can't actually get prosecuted ever. So they've no like a lot of the times, like they can't get fined, they can't get tickets, they can't get a court summons because actually there's nowhere to send it.
Yeah.
So that's how they used to get away with it so much in Ireland, was they had no address, so they're a law unto themselves.
I like to
That's
see,
what they felt.
I like to see the dude that goes down and has to knock on the door and goes, "Oh, you're all due for your vaccination."
Yeah. And your booster, you
Get
missed
the
that.
fuck out of here, like.
Yeah, I've never been vaccinated a day in my life, let alone now. Yeah.
Wow.
Good luck.
Mm. It's
Interesting
pretty crazy.
culture.
Yeah, but it's cool like that still like exists. Like at the end of the day, they're just nomads.
Yeah, and
that,
they would
like-
consider themselves probably the originals.
Right.
Like the indigenous. They'll say like we were here first.
Right.
And this is the way the culture was, and they have a real hang up on anyone who becomes a settled traveller. So anyone who converts. They have a real hang up with
Like
that.
Amish, you get shunned.
Yeah, because you've left, you've disowned your people. So like you could have a daughter who marries a settled man, or marries a normal, not normal, but a civilian, and then settles, and she will be excommunicated.
Don't come back.
No daughter of mine. Like,
Really?
Yeah. As in, they will consider her dead. Yeah.
I didn't realise it was
Yeah.
like that.
They don't like that. They believe this was their right. It's their right to roam the land.
But in some ways, like it should be like, because like back in the day, the caravans and the Winnebagos would have been like wheeled carts and horses, and they would have like foraged.
Yeah, and they would have
and
done
had their animals and lived off that way, right?
Or they would have done odd jobs for farmers, and like they would have done seasonal work, like they would have picked the berries at a time when, and that's why they kept moving along.
And they follow the word.
Yeah,
right.
and they weren't all scammers. The Irish name, one of the names for them was tinkers.
Yeah, I've heard that one too.
And because they used to sell
Fix things.
and they sell tin, but then they used to rob tin and then sell the tin. So then this is where the kind of the scamming started, like that, because they basically didn't have much. So, and they didn't have any education. They weren't allowed go to school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, as in like their people wouldn't let, because their kids had to work to earn for them.
Oh, not by the government.
No,
like
no,
the family
wouldn't let them.
Right.
And a lot of them still now, like I was saying, the girls get married very young, and once they get married, they have to leave. They're not allowed to be educated anymore. So a lot of them finish their education about 12. That's why I was saying, like, some of them couldn't read or write. And yeah, so because of that, they weren't allowed to be educated because they felt that educating them was a waste. Well, I need them to work and to help me. So because of that, then, you know, like the way they earned was off the land. But why a lot of people are kind of, they have a bad stigma attached to them now is because they're still kind of doing that, like moving around. But wherever they go, they leave a trail of like havoc. Like they'll come in, they don't use bins, they don't have any sanitation, you know. So everything is just a mess around them, and then they move off and leave the mess, and they've just left a massive havoc in a community, you know, that might have been a settled community which is quite tidy or whatever. So that's why people are not angry with them, but get annoyed with them. Like, you just come in, you ruin our place, you filthy our fields, and then you go off.
They are lawless folk.
Yeah, and they get away with it. So they're like, well, and next on to the next thing. So that's why they have a bad stigma attached to them, you know, that they just come in and ruin the place and then leave. And then the community that is settled has to deal with the aftermath.
Because that's what Tyson Fury, right?
Yeah.
Is the Gypsy King.
Yeah.
But
he would,
family-wise, he's Gypsy blood.
Yeah, so he's Irish. Like down along the line, he's an Irish Gypsy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's different to the Romanian Gypsy?
Yeah, so like they're different to us. They'd be more your wagons.
Well, the Irish didn't really originally have wagons?
I don't think so. I don't think we would have had the kind of wagons. I think they were more of a moving community, but I don't think they had the wagons, and that's more kind of the Romanian gypsies.
Right.
Yeah. But then, like, you've got Peaky Blinders who play on that.
Okay.
So they're like Thomas Shelby. He's based off being an Irish gypsy.
Right.
Yeah. And they still use in their kind of storytelling would have been the carriages. But then they became settled. So in Birmingham, you would have had a lot of Irish going over and working, and then when the work dried up, you would have had them then going into
on to the next place, like Sheffield or something.
Yeah, wherever the work dried up. So they were kind of the next stage of a travelling community, but not actually living in wagons or, you know, that kind of stuff.
Getting trains or whatever means.
Yeah. And just moving along with the work.
Yeah, so nomadic to a point.
Yeah, because we didn't have a lot of work.
Yeah, so it's probably born out of the famines and things like that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely. From the famine onwards, from that 1700s, where we had to start moving, like so many moved to the US, so many moved to the UK.
Oh, so the famine was the cause of that.
Yeah, we lost
mass Irish
immigration.
Right, and that's why there's Irish pubs all over the world.
Yeah, and that's why we're like rats. Everywhere we go, we infiltrate. Like, you get us everywhere. You get us in Australia, you get it, like, we're literally everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of funny because you'll find an Irish person, and when they're overseas, you'll notice that they'll be like, oh, that person's Irish. You can spot an Irish person
from the look.
Yeah. And then the minute they start talking, you're like, oh, that person's Irish. it's like you've never seen another Irish person.
Yeah, right.
But you're like, wow, I'm in Singapore and that person's Irish.
Do you guys have like you said, a fierce pride?
And very patriotic.
Yeah, massively.
And I think when we leave, we become more patriotic. So I've noticed that, like I was saying to you before we started, that I play Gaelic. I never played Gaelic football in Ireland. I only picked it up when I started playing when I came to Singapore. So I do feel when we leave and we emigrate, we actually become more patriotic and more proud of our heritage than we ever probably did when we were there in the country.
So I would be the opposite.
Really?
Yeah.
So you would like kind of distance yourself?
No, I think like, I don't know, you're talking about two different types of people, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like, I don't know, like Australia, like maybe I was more interested in Australian sports when I was in Australia. Like I'd follow the cricket more.
Yeah.
I had a friend who his brothers played.
Yeah.
His brothers played for Australia, basically.
Yeah, amazing.
So we sort of got to get tickets and stuff. So maybe that was part of it. But like now, I would
You wouldn't follow it.
Not really. Like I read it in an Australian newspaper sometimes just to stay in touch, but I'm not seeking it out on TV.
You wouldn't go
to
watch it on the matches.
No, like where before, like I'd sit there. Mind you, we'd drink a lot for 5 days and watch 5 days of cricket. You know, like because one game is 5 days.
It's a great excuse.
A lot of drinking opportunity. So I guess less so, and I'm not like, I know like Irish people like you guys. Okay, so where you'd be like, oh, that person's Irish, and you'd want to talk to them. I'd be like, I'd hear an Australian voice, especially if I can hear it going, I'd be like, oh, okay.
Pretend I'm not Australian.
So to be clear, I have like Australian friends here, some good Australian friends, but I'm not like
seeking out.
Like I'm not going to an Australian bar.
No,
at all. Sort of thing.
No, and I think it depends, right? I think if you're really into Irish sport in Ireland, then yes, I think when you come back you would like that, still follow the league, still follow the championship, and maybe seek out the matches. Whereas I wouldn't have followed the sport. When I came out here, I played it, but I played it to find a community.
Okay.
But I wouldn't seek out and follow the matches still. You know, I wouldn't watch them on TV or anything. Whereas my husband would, though, because he played it when he that's all he knew when he grew up. So he would still follow the matches and stuff on TV. But I definitely find you become you seek out a community of Irish once you start travelling. And I think that's kind of what I was trying to do. I was trying to find, I suppose, similar or like-minded people from Ireland, and the best way to do that is sport. And then once I found that, or boozing.
Drinking.
But the sport always coincides with some form of boozing.
Right.
So,
well, you've got to get thirsty.
Of course. You got to sweat a bit and then get thirsty. But so then you, whether or not we're like with COVID now, our team doesn't play. We can't play, right, in Singapore. So we don't have the sport element, but you still have the community element.
The booze is in.
No, like even just the WhatsApp group, or you know. But if we could booze, we would. It's just unfortunately the pregnancy's getting in the way. But
best not to. At least in private. Anyway.
Yes, exactly. Just don't go. Yeah, exactly. But I found I didn't know that you could get that from the Irish community, especially when you talk about sport, because I never played it in Ireland, right? So I never knew it was very community or very parochial until I moved away. And then I realised actually, like, yes, our common ground is the sport, but actually they were becoming like a community. Like they were, you know, we would have this massive WhatsApp group, and you would put like, somebody's coming over in 2 weeks, needs a place to stay, has anyone got a spare room? And you'd be like, yeah, I can hold you for 2 weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or it'd be like...
What, someone you don't know?
Yeah, absolute randomer. They'd be like, okay, John's coming over, he's moved over on his own, has anyone can put him up for 2 weeks? Yeah, someone would shout in the group, yeah, I've got a spare bedroom, I'll hold him for 2 weeks. Or someone's moving over in a month, she needs a place to live, does anyone have a house or a room that they're looking for somebody? No, I don't, but I know someone who does. And that's what I didn't realise existed. And that's where the kind of the community overseas is different.
That's
like,
nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
You should get like, you're still on the group.
Yeah.
Get like a couple of travellers and be like, oh yeah,
John Joe's moving over next week.
couple of lads going to be in town for a little bit.
Any chance you could hold them for 2 weeks?
Anyone need their roofing done?
Yeah. John Joe's on the run. Anyone got a place you can hide him for a while? Yeah, exactly.
So Irish sports, they're fucking mental.
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't know. You play Gaelic football?
Yeah, so the football one is less intense. But, yeah.
So, okay, so let's start off. There's 2 Irish sports that I know of. Hurling.
Yeah.
And
Gaelic football.
Hurling is not, like, organised vomiting.
No.
It's a proper game. But we'll start on Gaelic football because that's the one you play.
Yeah.
That's pretty. That's like Australian rules football, right?
Yeah, just a round ball as opposed to, like, an oval ball. And your men's, actually your women's is contact. Our women's is not contact. So technically we're not allowed tackle but yeah, men can.
How do you
Try dispossess, a bit like basketball. You're trying to, it's non-contact, but you're trying to put your hand in and get the ball.
okay.
So every 4 steps
So
you
you
have to do
just
something.
try to grab the ball
Yeah,
out.
every 4 steps they have to do something. They have to either bounce the ball or drop the ball off their foot. So that's your opportunity. Then, because you're exposing yourself, that's when someone can tackle you.
Oh, so if I've got the ball
Yeah,
and I just bounced it
yeah.
and I've got the ball, you can't run up and just snatch it out of me.
No.
Right.
Like, whereas in AFL you can, can't you? You can tackle.
Yeah.
So the lads, men's football, Irish football, you can tackle. Well, you can win the ball, but you couldn't ankle tackle them. Like, you couldn't grab their ankles and pull them down.
Yeah, in the Australian, it's called Australian football
Yeah.
or AFL or Aussie rules.
Yeah.
I think you can only tackle above
From
the
the
waist
hips, yeah.
or hip up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same in the lads in the Irish one, it's mostly your shoulder. You can shoulder them off the ball,
Yes.
and you can dispossess them, but you can't tackle them to the floor.
Right.
So even from the hips, you couldn't pull them down.
Oh.
Yeah. So so when Irish go over to Australia and first start playing AFL, they struggle with that because they've never learned to fall. They've never learned to be tackled, let alone to tackle. So they have to adjust to that. And I think that's why AFL has a very high injury risk or injury rate, is because, first of all, if you don't know how to tackle or you don't know how to be tackled, you fall hard.
But have you seen what they do when they take a mark?
Yeah.
Have you watched much of it?
So is that new? Is the mark new?
No, that's always part of it.
Ah, okay.
Like,
Because
but
they've
have you
started to
seen-
bring that into Irish football. Now we have the mark. So, but that's only new. So that's only come into Irish Gaelic.
So, but you've seen like.
Yeah.
Actually, this is. You've seen people take marks where
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, there's a 6'4" dude jumping through the air,
Yeah.
and another 6'4" dude runs up,
Yeah.
jumps,
To try and get it.
and puts his knees on his neck or treads on his back and jumps even higher
Yeah.
and gets it. I was showing it to Carl just before.
But that's why the injuries are mental.
So we had a guy, Tony.
Yeah.
He played in the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Right.
So he's pretty hard. Yeah.
I showed him that. He was like, "What the fuck is that? What are they doing?"
Show him hurling.
That's a whole other.
Yeah.
So, but hang on. So I understand how you can't tackle, but you can.
Yeah.
Cover. But you play because I looked on your Instagram before.
Yeah.
You play like a co-ed, like guys and girls.
No, so that would only be like a once-off tournament. You'd be doing it for a bit of
Okay.
fun, and then when it's co-ed, no guys can tackle the girls.
Right.
So you have to do that because otherwise they just run the length of the pitch on us, and we wouldn't have a go. So like when it's co-ed, the rules might be that you can't tackle a girl. Guys can tackle each other, but they can't tackle the girl, and the
Can
girl.
a girl tackle a guy?
Yes, and the girl can only score. So
okay.
that's what they would do to try and even out the playing field.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
But that's not common, co-ed.
Okay.
It'd be only a bit of fun.
So, but it's rough when you guys play, right?
Yeah, so like we girls say non-contact, but it's the most contact sport I've ever played, and it's deemed non-contact.
I've seen girls play netball, and that's rough.
Yes, and that's supposed to be non-contact
Yeah.
equally, right? So yeah,
Gaelic football,
is next level
no.
because you are running more, right? So netball you have to stop the minute you get the ball, whereas Gaelic you're not. You're running
In motion.
Yeah. So there's a lot more collisions. There's a lot more like bums in your face, and it's I wasn't tackling you, but I've absolutely just hooshed you with my
But
bum.
I'm gonna smash you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we knew a common friend, Jen.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, I worked with her, and it was a small office, and they would do like a group.
Fitness.
A
Yeah.
group fitness thing,
Yeah,
and they
yeah.
go to a gym.
Yeah.
And then like
She's so fit and
well, I was
strong.
kind of like new to the office. I was kind of like,
Yeah.
I should go, like,
Yeah.
and
Be a team
and-
player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Jen was going, and a few other people, and they're getting us to do stuff
Like
and
battle ropes, all that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And whatever circuit thing this dude sort of
Yeah.
got us to do and that, and like everyone in the office was sort of into it, and they
Yeah.
were fit, and that was cool or whatever. And then he said, take the medicine ball and run around the block.
Yeah.
So I was like, I was getting tired, but
Yeah.
it was okay. So I picked up the medicine ball. Jen, like, it was like she was on the farm.
Yeah.
Like, she's boom, like a
20
calf,
kg,
like a
probably.
calf on her shoulder, and just started like fucking running,
Pegging
like
it,
down the street, like this old lady's like she's run just onto the road, like running past cars, like it's like it was a pretty big fucking heavy medicine
And the thing
ball.
is, you got to bear in mind, Jen is the sweetest girl.
Oh, she's lovely.
Yeah, but when you get her in sport, something changes in her.
She's not like a big girl. How
No,
people
no,
say
no.
she's a big girl. She's
No.
got a big frame. Like a
She's
skeleton's
strong,
probably as big
shoulders.
as mine, right?
Yeah. And she's tall. I would always forget how tall she was.
Yeah.
She was a good bit taller than me. Like,
She's like a powerful person.
yeah.
Yeah.
So on the pitch, like when you put up against her,
That's what I was thinking. She'll fucking smash other
she'd be
chicks.
so nice and she's so sweet,
to your
right?
face.
And she genuinely is. But the
If you've got
minute,
the ball,
if you're on the opposing team, good luck.
I can see her smashing a lot of like.
And she'd be like, what? I didn't do anything. So that's why, like, when we
There's
were...
a girl on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why when we're playing in Singapore, like, on the same team, right, when we're doing training, we'd always be... Because we'd be kind of similar, like, ability. I wouldn't be as strong as her, but I'd be quick, right? So we'd always be put on the opposing teams at training. And I'd be like, for God's sake, do I have to mark Jen?
Was she good at you?
Yeah, like, she's competitive no matter what she does. She was driven, like, as in, she's the nicest and one of my best friends. But when you're against her competitively, no. Like, and people be like, Jen, you can't do that. And she'd be like, what, I didn't do anything. But equally, she'd be the first one to give out about somebody else. She'd be screaming at someone else, being like, Maire, you can't touch me like that. And you're like, wait a minute, Jen, you just smashed her about 10 minutes ago. Yeah, she just, whatever needs to win. Like, she was such a good competitor.
Yeah.
So then when you were on the team with her, then in the tournaments, oh my gosh, she was a dream to pass to. She was a dream to play with. She was lightning speed and then had no fear. And she could make it look like she got tackled all the time as well. So like she'd be like on the ground,
Good
you're
at
like
cheating.
Yes, good at diving.
but then so like, could you see like other other girls on the other teams must have been like scared of it?
Yeah,
right?
because every year she would win like All-Star. She would be even an MVP of the tournaments. So people would see her and be like, "Oh my God, do I have to mark Jen?" Because not only is she strong, but she was lightning fast. So once she got away from you, you may as well just give up. Like she was gone. So that's why people would hate marking her. Because they couldn't have, unless they were lightning fast too, they wouldn't stand a chance.
And you're going to cover miles all day.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, most people are either strong or fast, but she was both. So, like, marking her was a nightmare.
Because we looked it up before, so in Australian rules, the average player travels 10 kilometres a game, and some of them have hit 15. Like, so it must be the same in the Gaelic, right?
Yeah,
like,
I'd say for the lads now, it's up there around the same.
How long's the pitch?
We're a little bit longer. I think it's 150 metres long.
Okay.
So I think it's a little bit longer than an AFL pitch.
Right.
And then I think it's 75 across. But then somebody was telling me they can all deviate. They can be up to 150.
Yeah, I think it's like boxing rings and stuff like that.
Yeah, they can have deviations. Yeah. So I think the stadium, National Stadium, would be obviously standard, but every local pitch could be different, could vary slightly. And
the national, is it the
Croke
All
Park.
Ireland?
Yeah.
That's the final,
That's
right?
the pinnacle. Like, that's where everyone wants to play.
So all the kids leagues and you grow up and you represent your county, and then the counties play each other for like the season, and then
for the championship,
board, and the top two play in the final,
in Croke Park, and that would be the dream.
Croke, C-R-O-K-E,
Croke Park. And it was up to a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it was the biggest. It had the most. It could hold the most people in a stadium in the whole of Europe. So it could hold 84.
Really?
Yeah, it could hold, or can hold, 84,000. But I didn't realise actually a lot of like the Premier League football clubs in the UK, they can't actually hold that many. So for a long
60, 70.
Yeah, I think now we're not. Maybe Wembley's bigger than us now, and somewhere else in Europe. But for a long time,
So it's bigger than Wembley.
it was. Yeah, like 84,000 was it was pretty good for them. And like you would be very hard to get a ticket on final day, on the All Ireland day. Like they'd be like, gold dust. It'd be really hard to get them, especially if you were not from one of the counties. So say it was Dublin playing Kerry, and you were, say, Carlow, and you wanted a ticket. Good luck. You won't
get it.
No.
And you got to wear your knots.
Yeah, you got to wear your county colours.
No, but isn't it knots? Like, isn't there wool?
Oh, headbands. Headbands. So it is wool. It's all like, it's plaited. It's a braided wool in your colours. So yeah, you wear it on your head, or you wear it around your neck, or you wear it around your arm. Yeah. But everyone has the jersey, right? So a bit like AFL, you would all wear your jersey, your colours. But like, you'd be wearing one from 20 years ago, a vintage one. They're the best, the most sought after ones.
Would be like,
yeah, like that's cool.
Gangster.
Yeah, a new one is nothing to sing about, whereas an old one, you're like, oh, like that's vintage.
So then they have like these mixed rules, right? Australia versus Ireland. Ireland always win. I thought.
It tends to always, because they'll do mixed rules, then they'll do Irish rules, and then they'll do Aussie rules.
Oh, the Irish will be fucked at the Aussie rules.
We never win that one, but
do
we'll
they play
win
with the ball. The
and we don't know how to predict that, right? So the hardest thing for us is to predict where it's going to like pop,
bounce.
Whereas the Aussies know, and they know better how to kick it, right? Whereas an Irish lad will kick it like a round ball, and it's then going all that way. But yeah, the Irish tend to win the mixed and the Irish, and then the Aussies will always typically win there when it's just Aussie rules.
But the ball is like impossible if you're not used to it. Okay.
And then we're not used to tackling, so then the Irish lads think they're hard, and then they get a tackle from one of the Aussies, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, we don't know.
So the mixed rules is quite bit more towards the Irish rules?
Yeah. It's less physical. Right. Like AFL is much more physical than Irish rules, than Gaelic, like. So yeah, we can't tack it. We think we're hard, but we're not.
No, because I haven't watched it for ages, but I just I do remember sort of. Actually, I didn't even really watch it much, but I'd see it in the news and be like, "Oh, Ireland won again!"
Yeah.
Australia,
come on,
must be shit at this. But then I realised, it's more close to Gaelic football than the Australian football.
Yeah. And we don't stand a chance at the Aussie one.
There's been some players that have crossed over.
Yeah. So there's a few well-known lads, but a lot more now of the females are going over, and they're becoming very prominent and highly respected. Right. I think one of the girls, she's nearly in her 40s. I think she's 40 in 7 weeks, and she's playing in is it the Sydney Giants or is that the team? Yeah. So she's playing for them, but and
she's 40.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty
because
good.
she would have been operating like a professional athlete in Ireland, playing for an Irish team, but it's amateur sport, and would have had to keep her day job. Then she goes down to Australia, and now it's a professional sport. She doesn't have to do her day job, and it turns out like she's in the best shape of her life, because now she can focus fully on the sport. So yeah, I think she's the captain of the team and everything. Yeah, so they've really taken her on board. She was one of the first to go down. I think one of her first games, both her legs got broken, or her leg got shattered in like 40 pieces or something. Yeah, like it was a comminuted fracture she had, and they were like, "Wow, she's hard." She got a black eye, or like a broken eye, as well in one of the first games, and they were like, "Oh, this girl actually can handle her own." So she's one of the kind of influencing. She's trying to get as many Irish down. She's trying to encourage them down to Australia.
Yeah, but if I'm like a chick, and I'm in Ireland, and then I see one of our people have gone over, like a pioneer. Yeah. Oh, she just broke her eye and shattered her leg. It's not like a great advertisement for me to. I'm not really looking for that.
True. They're like, yeah, it's quite physical down here. So there's not many who are transitioning. And I think also you have to be at the right stage of your life. Like Cora Staunton, the girl that's gone down, she's not married and she's free and single, and it was probably a good time. Whereas if you've kind of got to the stage where you've played to the pinnacle in Ireland, you're probably coming to around your 30s, and at that stage, are you going to then transition your whole family down? One girl, the other girl that followed Cora, Breed, she has gone down, but she's brought her husband and her kid with her, and he's basically become a travelling spouse to allow her to do it, right?
Oh, he probably loves it.
Well, yeah, he's getting the best life. Him just living down the Aussie life, and the little I
He's going
think
on the beach.
yeah, they
she's
have a little
looking after
2-year-old.
kids,
Yeah,
she's getting injured.
yeah.
hurt.
She broke her neck the first couple of games in.
Serious?
Yeah, like it's proper physical.
Oh, I know it's physical,
Yeah.
but like I didn't.
But they're
why are
like
they getting-
they were accidents. Like the girl Breed who broke her neck, she broke one of her vertebrae in her spine. It was a tackle that the girl actually on the opposing team got. She got like pulled up on it. Like she got
suspension.
Yeah, like it was
she
a
tipped
foul.
her head.
No, I think whatever way she came in with her elbow, but it was a high tackle. It was deemed too high, and she got a suspension and I think like some kind of ban for a while. But yeah, it's quite physical.
The thing with it is that because. Like you didn't. So I'm from New South Wales. They don't play it that much.
Yeah,
like
I didn't realise it. It's quite a Melbourne.
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
biggest in Melbourne.
Victoria.
So it's the only soccer or soccer is played all over the country.
Yeah.
But of those other sports, like rugby union and rugby league,
It's big in.
only on the East Coast, Queensland, New South
Yeah.
Wales. And then I think like in the 80s, like it's, they tried to make a Melbourne team and they tried to make a Perth team.
Okay.
And that kind of happened.
Yeah.
And the same with rugby.
Yeah.
But the one thing that they played everywhere was AFL, or back then they called it Aussie Rules.
Yeah.
But it was mainly big in Melbourne.
See, I didn't realise that.
Victoria.
Yeah.
And sort of went out, and there was like, one Queensland
Yeah.
team, one Sydney team
Yeah.
sort of thing. So it wasn't something that you grew up
Everyone
playing.
or watching.
Yeah, like you could, like one of my friends played it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't common.
Yeah.
And so there was a school team.
Yeah.
And I played it. I only played it once.
Yeah.
And like I think there was some injuries, or whatever, and someone was like, "Oh, come play!"
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
can you
Take the spot?
Yeah. And I think like the teacher, she was kind of a cool teacher, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Yeah, Paul," like, and she was the coach. Can you play? I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, okay." Like,
Yeah.
and like in those other ones, if you've got the ball, you're gonna get hit.
Yeah.
Right. You're gonna get tackled
Yeah.
because I've got the ball. But in that, like, if you don't have the ball, you can still get smashed.
Yes.
Right? And so I didn't.
You're
really-
standing there thinking, "Oh, this is okay."
Well, we played another school who my friend was in it,
Yeah.
in that team sort of thing. So like, the ball sort of came over for the mark, and I
Yeah.
like jumped up like as high as I could, which is not
Yeah.
that high. And I was like sailing through the air gracefully,
Yeah.
and he just like smashed me, like, and I was like,
Are you allowed to do that?
like winded.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
Like they can tackle
He
me
can
any
smash
point.
you without
Yeah.
the ball.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
like
it-
ice hockey or something.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
bit like that.
Mm.
It's quite physical.
It's mental.
Yeah.
Okay, and then hurling, which is even more mental.
Yeah, so hurling is with a stick and a ball. So the ball is like a piece of cement. It's rock solid. I don't know if you've ever felt it.
I've hit.
A schlitter. Yeah.
Yeah, I just like on the beach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's literally like a piece of cement is then wrapped in thread and then covered in leather.
Like a cricket ball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too dissimilar.
Yeah.
So it goes very far. So it's like it's up there. It's one of the fastest land-based sports in the world. And
As in the speed of the ball.
Yeah.
Ah.
So the stick is made of ash traditionally. I don't know if they're all made now anymore. And then the ball is so hard that's why it's so fast. And if you watch some YouTube videos and stuff of it, like it is pretty mesmerising. And
Yeah.
only until, I think it was only 10 years ago that it became mandatory that you must wear a helmet. Before that, there'd be lads going around with no helmets on.
Oh, so for some reason, these sports were on TV in Australia
Yeah.
when I was like young.
That's
so
great.
Like
that
I'd
you
see
saw it.
hurling.
Yeah.
And I'd see Gaelic football, but it was like hurling was the one where it's just like, this is so like crazy.
And people would know the rules. They'd be like, what are you allowed to do, what are you not allowed to do? Because there's much more rules in Gaelic football. Like every 4 steps you have to do something with the ball. You can't pick it up straight from the land. But hurling has none of those.
Hurling, the rule looks like don't stab anyone.
Yeah, basically.
Everything else is
and don't
cool.
get hit.
Yeah. Yeah, like...
And these lads are like going up with their hand, catching this ball that's travelling at like 60, 70 kilometres per hour and just catching it in their bare hands.
But I'm allowed to put my stick up
Yeah,
with it.
yeah. The only thing you're not allowed to do is to swing back high. So for a hit, you can't swing above your head. So everything has to be lower.
Oh, to hit the ball.
No, like to slice the ball on the floor.
Right.
You couldn't do that, and you can't bring the stick across someone's head or neck, right?
That seems
But apart,
fair enough.
yeah, but apart from that, all else goes.
But if someone, so say like I'm trying to catch it.
Yeah, someone can put their stick
someone
up to
can,
block
like,
it.
put their stick up in front of it, and obviously that's
It's
going
to
hit
block,
me.
but not to hit me.
Right.
So you can't chop on my arm.
But there's going to be contact.
Yeah, 100%. And quite a lot of the lads will put their stick up behind their hand to block someone else coming in with a stick.
Oh,
Do you get me?
like a shield.
Almost, yeah. Because, like, I don't know how their hands don't break.
That's what I was going to say. Their
Yeah.
hands, it must be like...
No, and you'd see the guys, like, the guys who play it amateurly, like, their hands are massive and they're just riddled with, like, calluses and thickened skin.
Just like the knuckles.
Yeah, because just getting bashed and bashed, like, in collisions. But they don't stop. Like, I think they're more, like, hardy than the lads who play the football.
Yeah.
Because the stuff they go through. Yeah.
The stick, man.
Yeah.
Like the ball is like a rock.
So it's basically a lump of cement.
There's no baseball mitt or anything
No.
going on like that.
No, and then you look at the lacrosse guys and they're like catching it in the thing.
Yeah.
And then these lads are like, wah.
With a fucking hard stick.
Yeah. Like it's
Because the stick's that long, right?
yeah, no, it's usually up to the size of your hip. It's usually like the length of your leg.
Okay. Oh, so every stick's different.
Yeah, so each person will have a different one. And then the
So
goalkeeper,
about a meter to just under,
Yeah.
depending on how.
tall you are.
Yeah.
And then the goalkeeper, he will have a massive head. So the head will be bigger.
Of his stick.
Yeah, for
I thought you
blocking.
meant goalkeeper.
No, no. Sorry, the head of his stick.
The child gets bored and they'll be like, I'll be a fine goalkeeper that one.
You, sir.
Yeah.
Have you ever played hurling?
You have a head for hurling. Yeah. But like it's just mental. Like I love showing like foreigners in work, like Americans, I love showing them a picture or a video of it, because then they're just like, are you serious?
Yeah, because
This
American contact sports, you got helmets,
Yeah, you got
shoulder
pads,
or
yeah.
whatever.
And they're like, I'll show them an old video where you like half the guys are wearing helmets and half the guys aren't, and they're like, why are some? And I'm like, because it was your choice whether you wanted it or not. Half them were, it would impair their vision,
Right.
so they wouldn't wear it.
Yeah.
But then they developed the helmets that are better. But you'd see the helmets, they're nothing like an NFL helmet.
It looks like an old bicycle helmet.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
and they've got like little grates, but like there's some footage of the ball, like it's only just stops the ball getting in. So like there's been footage of
Oh,
the,
it gets stuck.
yeah, you're just like, I got away with it. Yeah. Like,
Then the other person let it come in and whack that fucking thing out
Yeah.
of their face.
you wouldn't be surprised. Helmets fly off, sticks get broken all the time. Yeah, like it's a pretty brutal sport, but mesmerising to watch.
I was gonna say to watch, like it's a wicked
Because
sport to watch.
it's just so quick.
Yeah.
With the movement of the ball.
and the contact and like there's like full skill in it, right?
Yeah,
like,
getting it
obviously
up off the
catching,
ball,
running.
running with it on the stick.
But yeah,
Yeah.
because they're running, like they're scooping it up off the ground and running with
With
it
it.
and tapping it up
Yeah.
and smashing it.
It's pretty cool to watch.
They
Like,
kind of catch it with the stick as well.
yeah, they
right?
can block it and catch it down with the
But
stick.
do they ever like catch it on the stick?
They depends. Like if it's a short pass,
Okay.
yeah, you would catch it on your stick. But a long one, they'll go
You
for the
don't-
hand.
They're not like
No scooping it.
that's Quidditch or something.
Yeah.
Right?
No. The stick is too flat.
Yeah.
So if you caught it like that, you would be only blocking it to drop it down to yourself.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be trying to catch it and then bring it.
When I was hitting it, like, it was super fun, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
quite
enjoyed
fun.
it. And the handle, I remember it's got like a little hook on the end.
Yeah, it's got a little kind of
Yeah.
divot.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't fly out of your hand,
I
right?
wonder why. I don't know. It's just that's the original design.
Well,
the
they
thing,
probably use that to jab
yeah,
someone
probably in the
back.
gut. The thing with Gaelic has the football has evolved a little bit over time and rules have changed, whereas hurling has stayed very true to the original. So that's what's nice about it. Like apart from the helmets becoming compulsory, the stick hasn't changed, the ball hasn't changed. They changed the colour of the ball sometimes so that it's more visible, because it used to be white, and then in the big matches they've changed it to kind of a luminous yellow. But actually, pretty much it stayed true to the game.
So it's not like tennis where the racket's got bigger
No,
and stuff like that.
no,
like
no.
it's the paddle or the what's it called? Sorry.
The hurl, HURL.
Oh, the stick's called the hurl.
Hurl, yeah.
So the hurl
Hasn't evolved.
If you went back 60, 70
Yeah.
years, it's the same.
Like, and some
instrument.
guys would still go to the same guy, the same carpenter who's made it, like, for their dad, and and his dad would have made it for their dad.
Right.
Now, they wouldn't be doing it as maybe a business, but some of them will still be doing it as a business. But some will just historically still do that on the side, and they'll still make it. So, and there's a lot goes into it. Like, it's like a piece of art.
Yeah,
And then you
right.
just see it getting smashed in half.
Into somebody
Yeah,
else.
yeah, literally
Yeah.
smashing.
How old is it then as a sport?
So that would be from the 1800s as well. So Gaelic and football, the association was 1888 was it was started, but they would have been playing it before.
Must be long before, right?
Yeah, and they reckon shinty from Scotland. That might have been the original.
What's
shinty.
that one?
So shinty is the same. It's a stick played, like a stick sport played with a ball, but it's a smaller head than what we use.
Right.
But they reckon one or the other, whether shinty started first and then came to Ireland, and then we kind of took it over and made it our own, and that's what hurling originates from. And shinty is still played in Scotland.
I
Yeah.
hadn't heard of that.
Yeah.
It's
So-
weird, like the two like nationalities that I would not want to give a stick.
The Irish and the Scottish.
Yeah. And make any sort of competition out of anything.
Yeah.
That's
And just
a
say,
recipe for
go figure it out, lads. Make up some rules, make a game.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So then, I think if we talk about hurling people's hands, have you got a picture of that? Did you put it up?
Yeah.
I'm sure they're quite gnarled up. It's probably a good transition into your profession.
Oh, yeah.
And this is how I know you as,
Yeah.
as a physiotherapist.
Yeah.
The physiotherapist must be making a lot of money in Ireland.
Oh, yeah. Like, because it is amateur, right? Every team, though, will have a physiotherapist that follow them.
Yeah.
And then, like, that would be kind of... If you didn't want to leave Ireland, that would be the pinnacle for a sports therapist or a physiotherapist. It'd be like being a Premiership footballer's physio. You'd want to be the Dublin physio. You'd want to be the Limerick hurling physio. Like, that would be where you kind of aspire to, and you'd be the lad running out on the pitch.
You'd be busy.
Yeah, very busy.
Fucking busy.
Yeah, well, like, definitely a busy job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's exciting. Like, pitch side kind of work like that is very exciting. You
Have
get
you
to
ever
know.
done it?
Yeah. So we would have all done it as in part of our training. We would have been assigned to a team, like a
Oh.
university team. Yeah.
Oh, okay, university team.
Yeah. And then you may continue on with a club team. So I would have done it for the university team, and I would have done it for a club team. And then your club, there's like where the clubs are kind of the ground roots. That's where your county team gets picked from. So you might have, like, I would have done it for a team called what you call it now? I can't even think of their name. But our club would have had maybe one guy that got picked to play for Dublin. But like, you get some other clubs that would have had 3 or 4 members got picked to
It's
play
like
for
a
Dublin.
talent hotbed.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, if you were the physio for where I'm from is Raheny, they have 3 lads who play for the county. So that would be a very good, like it'd be a pretty good like team. If you were like, I'm Raheny physio, they're like, oh well, you know, Raheny has provided 3 county players. So it's quite a, like, you know, a prestigious job.
Right.
Yeah. But it wouldn't pay very well.
Okay.
They've no money. It's all amateur, right?
Yeah.
So you'd be doing it for like minimal pay. So it's not a job that you're going to do forever.
Right.
It'd be just doing it for the experience and the kind of the honour.
And
know.
and maybe to help your CV, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
in
yeah.
future job prospects.
Oh yeah, it would look impressive in Ireland. Oh, you've done this team, this team, this team. It would look pretty good on your CV. And it's great exposure because they're always injured. Because there is no end, there is no start to the season. They're always playing.
Oh, what?
So yeah, so that's what
There's
they're...
no seasons.
No, so there's a season for championship. So if you're playing for your county, you're playing in the championship. But the way it works is you play for your county, you might play for your club, and you might play for your university. So if you're playing for those 3, there's a lot of overlap. So within that, you get a huge amount of burnouts, and this is what they were seeing, loads of injuries as well, because it's just repetitive.
So if I play All Ireland
Yeah.
final,
Yeah.
I'll also still play all the way back down to university level if
Yeah.
I'm at university.
Your probably least priority would be your university, but your club would be a high priority
So I'd still be running out every weekend
for your club.
unless I've got commitments to the county.
Yeah,
Right.
and you might be on the fringes of the county, but you need to still play for your club in order to keep your games, because you mightn't be getting any games with your county, but you're on the panel. So there's a huge amount of burnout.
Cricket's like that in Australia, actually.
Is
so,
it?
so it is seasonal.
Yes.
But like people that play for Australia
Yeah.
will play for club.
Yeah.
So in revert, it goes like club, state, country.
Yeah.
But country players will still turn out for club.
Yeah. So, and it might depend on whether you're getting a game or not.
Yeah. But when you say no season, so cricket is played in summer and
Yeah.
football is played in winter. in
No, so
Australia.
football is played all year round.
So there's no break.
No, and that's the thing what they're trying to change because of like comparisons to AFL. Like you've very much got a final day,
Yeah.
and it's a summer sport, isn't it? AFL.
Winter.
Sorry, winter sport.
Yeah.
So whereas Ireland is not, like our final used to be in September, but you would then go straight from your final that would be your county final, and it would be played in the last weekend of August, first weekend of September. But then you'd go straight from that then into university, because university starts in September.
Wow.
So you'd start playing university, and then you might be playing university and going back every weekend to your county to play for your county. Because if you didn't play for your club, if you didn't play for your club, you wouldn't get spotted or seen to be able to get back on the county team. So they all just blended into each other, and you were just getting massive amounts of burnouts. And like it's great for physio because you would see huge amount of injury rates, but this is all amateur, so they're all
That's what I
getting
was
injured.
gonna say, you're not getting
paid for this. No. And it's different types of injuries, right? It's not head injuries like you would see in rugby or NFL, but you'd be seeing these repetitive strain injuries. So it was great for studying, like it was great for research. They were using like ACL injuries, knee injuries, blowouts. A lot of the research is on Gaelic footballers.
Really?
Because of the burnout, the repetitive strain, and how like ACL injuries were happening when you're fatigued. But they were in constant fatigue because they were never getting a real off season.
Because I read or heard that if you are like tired from lack of sleep or muscular
concentration,
fatigue, is it a 40% increased chance of injury?
Yeah,
Is
it's really high. Right? It's up around there. I'm not exactly sure what the number is, but it is really high. Like usually ACLs, blowout in your knee, were happening. The incidences of them were happening non-contact. So it wasn't anything to do with anyone else, and it was in the second part of the game.
When you are tired.
Yeah.
What, and is it just like
you land and then you turn and you don't move your leg, you move your body, but you leave your leg behind you. Just because fatigue and lack of concentration.
Like your motor neurons aren't just firing.
Yeah, you're not as quick. So, and you're talking about what if you've had 2 trainings that week, 2 intense training to impress the coach, and then you've got a Saturday game. You're knackered. You've also been travelling up and down the length of the country to try and get to trainings, and then probably working a job as well.
Yeah,
and then you're expected to play your best on Saturday. And then you don't, and you blow out your knee, and then you've got 9 months recovery, and it's all cash out of your own pocket because you're not being covered.
That's crazy. Huh?
So that's where you were getting.
No wonder they want to get over to Australia, where it's like
conditioning. You've got
you get paid.
Yeah, you're getting full-time gym. Like you're getting a personal trainer, a strength and conditioning coach, right? And then whilst you're in it, if you get injured, all your treatment and your rehab is covered.
Well, your off seasons where you repair, get stronger,
and they'd be doing full proper strength and conditioning programs. You know, like for the 3 months that they're off, they'd be smashing it in the gym, and it's all sport specific stuff. Like you would only be getting that. And that was the big debate in Irish football, was that Dublin is the capital and it was having the most investment. So it was having these trainers, this strength and conditioning coaches that other counties weren't having. And then we were winning, they won 6 years on the trot. And people were giving out saying, it's because you've got money, and you can invest in your players were getting bigger and stronger.
And they were physically.
Yeah, and they were definitely. But other people were saying, well, they're still holding down jobs, you know, like they're still teachers, they're still accountants, they're still solicitors.
It's just where they live.
Yeah, Yeah, and then you say you can't bias them, and they were saying, well, you need to split the county because it's not fair. Dublin should be made like half, like be north side and a south side team, because we're never going to win. And then last year they lost. So then once they lost one year, everyone's kind of stopped now and said, all right, yous are not immortal.
Else is like Rocky 4 and everyone's just like cutting wood.
Yeah, that's it, like out in the farms, lifting goats.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were like, okay, fine, maybe you're not immortal.
Because Carl was saying that he met like loads of physiotherapists here that are Irish.
Yeah.
Heaps, yeah.
So there's a mass like well, maybe there is a lot of us, but there would be a massive recruitment in Singapore of Irish and British physios, because they didn't have their own degree here for a long time. They had a diploma, so they would train local Singaporeans up to 3 years, but you wouldn't get a degree. So it'd be very hard for you to then find employment. So what then they did was Singapore government would go out to the UK and Ireland twice a year and recruit back Irish physios, but for the hospital setting. So you would go into the hospital, you would do 3 years working in the hospitals in Singapore, and you'd be bonded, so you couldn't leave.
Helping people after surgery?
Yeah, like heart attacks, strokes, neuro, pediatrics, not just muscular.
Right.
So it'd be everything you could find in kind of the whole remit of physio.
Mm-hmm.
And then after their 3 years or their 2 years contract, a lot of them were young, so they'd leave. But now what we're seeing is actually physio is really on the rise here. It was a very new industry, and now it's more common. Like you would have had more TCM, Chinese medicine. It wouldn't be in Chinese culture to have a physio. You would go to a doctor, you go TCM, right? And even still at that, they'd be reluctant to do conventional medicine. You know, a lot of them, even if they have a stroke and it's in Chinese New Year, they won't go into hospital because it's bad luck.
Really?
And, yeah, you'd have people coming into hospital 2 weeks after a massive stroke because it was a bad time. They had it at Chinese New Year, or they had it, like, and it's really bad luck to be in hospital during that time. But
well, because of bad luck, or because it's just like, fuck that, Chinese New Year's
no,
banging.
It's bad luck. No, they're
Throw
not.
me another beer. We'll go in 2 weeks' time.
No, it's all this superstition.
Yeah.
Bad luck to, like, they won't clean their house, they won't cut their hair during Chinese New Year. It's all this superstition.
Yeah.
So for the same reason, like you'd have, I never worked in the hospital setting here, but I've had loads of friends who have, and like I remember one girl telling me a story that this old man had come in with a massive dense stroke, like you're talking about a huge bleed in the brain, so probably like long-term paralysis. And like he was an old guy, and his family brought him in, but it was a week later after the stroke. And the whole thing with stroke is early intervention, like within hours, right? And what they'd been doing for him was putting deep heat on him. And she was like Tiger Balm. She was like the bang of Tiger Balm off this poor man. They'd been slathering him in it. But like,
third degree burns. His skin.
I shouldn't be laughing, but like
the
poor guy will never walk again, probably never ever to speak again. And they were just slathering him in this Tiger Balm. And she said like that was the worst case, but she said they were Tiger Balming for everything.
My grandma do that.
Really?
She's Chinese.
Yeah.
And she'd like anything.
So imagine them coming into physio and me trying to be like, go easy on the Tiger Balm and we're going to do some exercises. They're like, your one's mental.
Yeah, and she gave me these rubber bands.
Yeah, and I'm like wrapping them around my head.
I have to tell you, like, so, you know, Chinese New Year is like a massive celebration. We're coming up to it soon.
Yeah.
And you throw away stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like, and
spring clean, isn't it? And
declutter.
declutter. Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, like, since I've been young, I've always been like, fine stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Like in Australia, you have like clean up week.
Yeah.
And people like just all the big stuff, or it could be tree branches, or it could be stuff that was under the house. They put it on the street.
Yeah.
I used to go around and look through that stuff.
Find some nuggets.
Yeah, I'd find loads of stuff, and I'd hide it. My parents would hide it in the bush behind the house, and or put it in my room. My parents would hate it. But when I came here, as I start to notice, it's Chinese New Year. People
You're doing the
throw
same
away
thing again.
really good stuff. Like, I've found loads of stuff. I've found in my life, like, maybe, I think 3 or 4 operating televisions.
Oh, wow.
One was bigger than, oh no, same size as that.
In Singapore or in Australia?
No, this was overseas.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, sorry, Australia
people are
and
just
UK.
throwing it away because they're upgraded.
Throw away good stuff.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So I was like down by like the HDB,
Yeah.
and someone was like throwing away stuff, and I think I found some. I can't remember. I found some like really cool sort of like Javanese.
Oh, yeah.
Material
Yeah.
and some other stuff. So then the next Chinese, I caught the end of it.
Oh,
so
yeah.
the next Chinese year,
You were well
like,
aware to it.
I'm on it, right? Like I'm got like
The week before.
proper, you know, like I look like a thief. Like my eyes are sort of like this. And then I saw this, all these boxes.
Mm-mm.
I was like, oh, cool. Like, and I sort of like was going through it.
Yeah.
And there's like a computer keyboard and a mouse and stuff like this. And then there's this sort of, you know, like there's a lot of old uncles or
Yeah,
old Chinese
yeah,
guys,
they go around
like,
their
sort of
bikes.
sitting around,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's one he's like sat over by sort of at the end of the boxes.
Yeah.
And he goes, moving. And I'm like, no,
You think you're moving
I've
house?
been here a while, like, yeah, I just looking through this stuff, and
Yeah.
he's like, no, I'm moving. I was like, oh.
It was his
Yeah,
stuff.
that was all this stuff. I'm like fully like
Rummaging
oh.
through it.
Yeah, sort
What,
of
like trying on
looking
the...
at it, and no, I won't use that, and putting it back, and I was like, oh fuck.
Oh, I
I'm so
love it.
sorry. I thought you were throwing it out. He's like, oh, yeah, it's okay. He was laughing at least.
Yeah, at least he took it well.
Yeah.
If that was an Irish traveller, you would have had your head
Oh,
boxed
I
off.
would have been done.
Yeah.
I'd have been like out the back
Yeah.
of the field.
What are you doing with stuff, lad?
Buried.
Yeah.
Yeah. So your physio, like I always thought, like, because I visited a lot of physios.
Yeah.
Because I've have a lot of injuries.
Probably the
in
nature
my
of your
time.
sport.
Yeah, but also that lack.
Yeah.
So you've been one of the best physios I've had, and I think one of the reasons for that is like you are an active person.
Yeah.
So like I remember the first physio that I went to was certainly did not look like an active person.
Yeah.
They checked me for the injuries and stuff like that. But then, if I sort of think back, it's only yourself and one other that was like a fit person sort of thing. That guy used to ride bicycles and stuff like that. So the fact that you do sports, like I know you're big into running, but also these more physical sports as well is kind of like...
The more exposure, the better you understand the body, right?
Yeah, but I think you understand like your body, recovery of your own injuries, and trying to perform better at your sport. Because you haven't got to running yet, which you're very good at. But then, just the act of keeping fit and exposure to other people and encountering
other sports.
Yeah, like and that's I think what may make. My humble opinion, one of the reasons that I think you're really good at what you do.
Yeah, I agree. Like in the sense, I think physio is there's a lot of theory. Don't get me wrong, and you do have to do the training and understand the body and the anatomy. But it's an apprenticeship once you're out there. Like, and actually, the more bodies you see, the more conditions you see, the more injuries you see, the better you are, because you can learn everything from a textbook, but actually humans, we're so varied. Shape, size, like you were talking about your laxity, like your ligaments, your tendons, every human being is different, but yet we learn from this textbook that, you know, everyone's seen the human body, the muscle skeletal system that we look at, but that's not the way a body comes into you. So you will never be able to integrate what you learn in the books or in university until you're actually feeling, touching, like living beings. And it was like Leonardo da Vinci, like they literally and the sculptors, all they did was they dug up bodies and they looked at cadavers.
Oh really?
Yeah, so he apparently got into a lot of trouble, and then he used to pay people, the grave diggers, to give him bodies, and that's how his his David. It was because he, like, everyone couldn't believe the sculptors. What they used to do were like really crappy sculptures, because they were learning off books and pictures.
Memory.
Yeah, but actually then he was getting dead bodies given to him, and he was using them, and then they were like, how is it so accurate? But sure, he was legally digging up graves or getting someone else to do it for him.
Just like dipping them in like some wax and making a mold.
Yeah,
and
then
fill it up
copying
with
it.
cement.
Yeah.
Sit back.
And then all these other guys chipping away. Yeah, but like that's like, it goes back to as far as that, right? And then like still as part of our training in university, we go in and look at dead bodies, cadavers.
But why don't they just give you real ones? Or you
but
cut it up and see what's inside?
Yeah, to see the fascia, to see if I pull on one part of the fascia, how it moves another part, and like to learn anatomy and to actually see the tissue. Because you learn, okay, the bicep runs from here to here. What's that mean? Like, and then you're like, I learned that the bicep bends the elbow. Great, what's that mean? Like when you go in and then see, and these bodies are amazing. People have donated their bodies to science, and it's very respectful, and their faces are covered, and we don't see it, and it is done very tastefully. But like we're basically in their tissue and moving it and seeing it and trying to understand how actually it's all mechanics.
So you do go in and like when you get the crab.
Well, you don't cut them up.
And you pull the thing. And,
but you
and
do that,
It's the same thing. You're working out, well, if I pull on that...
What moves?
That moves that.
Yeah.
And
like I'll never forget the smell of the formaldehyde, the stuff that preserves them. You can't rinse that off. Like you have about 10 showers and you still smell of it.
Really?
Yeah. And you'll never, like you were saying about the goat cheese, I'll never forget the smell of formaldehyde.
Same thing.
Yeah. But it's very interesting.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Because...
Sometimes very frustrating because we learn all these injuries, right? And like you have maybe a bicep tear and you come in and I have a bicep tear, but how I treat you and how I treat me might not end up with the same outcome because every human being is different, every anatomy is different. Even though it's the same injury, things are healing different, healing times in different people are different. Depends how good a healer that person is, the quality of their tissue, their age, their food,
how sensible they are with the injury. Do they do all their physio,
or they do more,
exercise?
They do less, the quality of their tissue. So that's sometimes why it's frustrating, and that's why like there is no textbook answer to, like you were saying, like why when you saw one physio were they good or different. It depends on whether like their treatment or their skill set or how they treat the body is different. Like if you just treat it purely like the area is injured, then it might not get the same outcome as somebody who might treat you holistically and go, okay, well you tore this, but let me investigate why you tore that. And that's kind of like finding the root cause, or your posture, or the nature of your sport, or what you do, or what you do when you're not playing your sport also might be contributing to how you heal or how you tore the tissue. So that's why sometimes it's quite frustrating for especially new physios, because you might do something with A and he's fine, and you do the same thing with B and he didn't get better, and you're like, but I did the exact same thing for the exact same thing. It just doesn't work like that.
There's so many variables in it.
Yeah.
I think because like when I've seen you, I don't know if it's annoying, like I want to know the why, but you're already looking for that, I think.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Where I've seen other people say, oh, you've torn the ligaments in your ankle.
Yeah.
They're not looking at the why. So like, I've been going physios on and off, like depending on, when injured since I've been 15.
Yeah.
And you're the one that told me about like this, these lax joints.
Yeah.
Like,
not normal.
but no one's ever told me that.
Yeah.
Of all those physios that I've been to, no one's ever diagnosed me that. The last one, the last major surgery I had in Australia, like it's full shoulder reconstruction, labrum tear, and he was excellent.
Yeah.
But he didn't
ever say that either.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like they're not thinking that way, or
and maybe he saw it and was like, it's not relevant to him, it's not worth flagging it, or maybe he just never noticed it. Like I think it depends on the type of physio you are. I'm very much like, I want to know how your body moves, and even if you come in with a shoulder issue, I might still get you to do a full functional thing. I'll get you to squat and show me how everything else moves, because unfortunately you're not just a shoulder, you're not just a wrist, you're your whole body, and the way your whole body moves, like it will tell me why you probably hurt your shoulder as well, so you have to look at the person as a holistic being. So it could be just he's not into looking at you as a whole person. He might have been just fixated on one area, or it could have been he saw it and didn't think it was relevant to flag it up to you, and maybe he didn't think it was relevant. Maybe they're not linked. Maybe he was thinking that.
I think like I've seen you for injuries and then had a major one sort of thing.
Yeah.
So like the only reason I saw him was full
One-
rehabilitation of an injury.
Yeah. Whereas
or,
you'd see
a surgery.
yeah. And then you get different, like that's different types of rehab, right? He would have been just fixating on that because that was his job at that time. So yeah, I think it just depends on what you see. And you have to see hundreds of bodies, you have to see hundreds of injuries, you have to see hundreds of different types of bodies and different ethnicities. Like I was saying to you before, like you know, Asians are known to have looser ligaments, so they will have different injuries to Caucasians who are much stiffer humans. Yeah, so you'll see a lot more like
Why is that?
because of our literally our tissue conditioning. Our tissues are different, so that's why Asians can do, you know, the Asian squat and Caucasians can't. And apparently it's because you can't.
Well, I can, but it's like it's very uncomfortable.
But
like,
It looks like he's 100.
yeah. They reckon it's your genes. You're probably Celtic or Viking.
right.
Yeah, so they reckon that's why. They actually will say you'll never be a power lifter because you'll never be able to get under and squat.
Right, man.
Yeah,
Damn
that's
it.
that's your career, God.
So you can't squat like that?
I can. I have a bit of. I'm not loose in my tendons, but I have flexibility. But like, whereas my husband, no way. He's 6'4" and he literally
He's
can
just-
barely
he's
touch
not
his
getting
knees.
down there.
No way. And there's no point, right? Because that's
Because
probably
he has a toilet.
yes, that's true. But it's probably his saving grace for certain other things, right? Like if I'm slightly looser and you're a lot looser, you're probably more likely to hurt your ligaments and your joints than he is. But he's probably more inclined to rip his muscles sooner because his muscles are protecting his joints. Yeah,
Rip.
yeah. So, but that's probably where he gets his power for his sport because he's so tight. He's got so much explosion.
Is that more fast twitch?
Yeah, so he's much more powerful. So he'd kill me in a 100-meter sprint. Like, I wouldn't have a hope. But over 10K, I'll gas him every time. So there's probably benefits to people being really tight, and there's probably benefits to other people being loose. And that's why you see Asians, they love yoga, they're very good at gymnastics, because they've got extra looseness in their ligaments that I'll never get. Even if I stretch every single day, my tissue won't go like
Just
that.
genetically, it's more
Different
suited
fibres.
to and sympathetic to those types of
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah, and that's why you see, like, with the Russians and the Asians, the Chinese in the Olympics, you know, their frames are different, their mechanics are different. That's why they're more suited to different sports. And same, you've probably seen it in swimming. That's why we don't have a lot of black swimmers. Their tissues are different to various Caucasians, and the way they move in the water is different then as a result, and therefore they'll never be up to that. But then you have a black sprinter versus a white sprinter, gassed every time.
But like genetics are like far more like just athletic, like
Yeah, primal still, like.
just way better and more advanced. Like my friends, like some in London, like there's a lot of black guys there.
Yeah.
Like they're just fitter, stronger, faster. Like
Yeah.
one of my friends, he like looks at weights and he starts to get shredded.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
The way they put on muscle is very different to us, and the capacity for them to develop muscle is much greater than Caucasians. For the effort we would probably have to do to the effort they would have to do, it's just
but
non-comparable.
is it the way that you like? I don't know if synthesize is the right word.
Yeah.
Synthesize food and that it spreads.
It's more how you synthesize muscle. So how
it's the response to the load.
growth, yeah, the growth after the load. So they respond and they develop bigger and they grow bigger much sooner than we would.
Yeah.
And it probably is something, you know, hereditary or like genetic, far in the, you know, when they evolved, right, versus us, how we've evolved. But
We've
then
evolved lazy.
yeah,
white
to be
people.
softer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I mean, I don't know, from 1600 to 1800s, white people just drank gin and sat in their own feces in
just
London, and then they went out and
Yeah.
went
Well,
to different countries, right?
how many physios have you gone to and they've said, oh, your glutes are weak? Like, every physio will say that, but that's because we've literally learned to sit on our glutes and our bums and not use them. Whereas if you're in a profession where you were standing all the time, or you were a farmer, or you were out in the desert moving.
But wouldn't that be more the individual rather than like a history?
No, it's as we've industrialized. So
Really?
as we've got machines to do things that we don't need to do. So as we've become more, like, I suppose, what's the word, like, civilized and socialized, we're not having to do the manual work. We've got these machines, these robots that do all this work for us. So with it, as we've, you know, civilized, we've actually lost a lot. We've evolved, probably not physically better, definitely intellectually better, and definitely more like, we're able to do quicker business, we're able to manufacture things quicker.
And that's just technology.
Yeah. So then, as a result of that, though, we've got all this tech doing it instead of us. So therefore,
I don't think we're more intelligent.
No, but I think we've become more physically weaker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, our bodies are weaker.
But you think that that's like almost like DNA?
Yeah, then it changes your DNA.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think,
not just like so basically, if somebody had your child.
Yeah.
And I said, Moira.
Yeah.
I know you spent 9 months.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to do an experiment.
Yeah.
I'll have this one.
Yeah.
And then I
Grand, you breastfeed it.
and then I bring your child up on a farm.
Yeah.
And put them on a labour.
Yeah.
And give them excellent nutrition. You still think that like DNA?
Well, it depends. It depends, I think, on the probably the environment of the mother as well when it was growing the baby. I definitely think that's that contributes to the type of genetics that the kid will have then after. Like, why are we getting kids nowadays that have all these allergies? Like, why are they allergic to peanuts? Why are kids allergic to gluten? Why are they all these things? Well, is it because of what the mother conditioned or did during pregnancy or didn't do during pregnancy, or the lack of exposure to varied diets or exercise or movement? Like, why in Singapore do we see so many C-sections? Why are women not electing to have births, or why can we not have births? Why do we need all this pain meds? Why do we need to have C-sections?
That's something, is it?
Yeah, Singapore
across ethnicities.
Yeah, well, I also think it's as we've evolved as well. I think we're afraid of pain and we can't push through pain. Like, historically, a woman would have gone into a cave or into a dark corner and just given birth.
Yeah.
And now don't get me wrong, a lot of babies would have died and a lot of women died because of complications in birth.
Yes.
Because when a baby got stuck, mother and baby died. Now you can save the baby and save the mother. That's amazing. But I also think we're very quick to just go, oh, I feel a bit of pain.
Take the easy option.
Give me all the drugs. Cut the baby out, right? Yeah. So I think as we're weaker, I think, unfortunately, we're changing the genetics or the DNA of the child as well. You know.
Yeah, because I guess what you talk about there, where it's just like, okay, I can't handle pain, take baby out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a result of like living in a convenient society.
Yeah.
In a
I've
way,
never
right?
had to do anything hard. I've never had to do hard work. I've never had to go through a bit of pain. And that's why they do say now they're recommending that women in pregnancy do, like, before it'd be like, right, now you're pregnant, lie in a bed for 9 months and give birth. And now they're realising, actually, well, then the birth rate of babies are worse, the delivery times are longer, you know, they're not as successful, loads of issues then after with the babies as well, like they're not able to latch, to thrive, all that stuff. So now they're saying, okay, women, stay healthy, try and move every day when you're pregnant. You can lift weights. Like we used to say, don't let your heart rate go above a certain amount. Now they're saying, scrap that, like just move how you feel. If you did something before you were pregnant, continue to do it all the way through your pregnancy within reason.
Like
okay,
smoking,
drinking, you know, maybe not so much, quit that, yeah, but all the other physical things continue to do.
But
right?
then I think absolutely then that would, you know, give, like you were just saying, you're still running, you're 7 weeks
due.
7 weeks?
Yeah.
7 weeks due.
Yeah.
How far are you running?
So I run anything up to 10 or 12k 4 or 5 times a week. Yeah.
But
like I did that before, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing
but like
new.
Inside, like I think like your baby, like this, like, okay, your baby's not like, probably not going, 7 o'clock, we'll be running soon. I'm just going to just like get comfy and face the way that I'm going to go. Like, it's more just like used to movement, used to like a rhythm of.
And I probably will get screwed when the baby comes, because then it'll only want to be bounced or it'll only want to be moved. It will not be able to.
Where people go, I've got to go for a drive to put the baby to sleep.
That'll be, I have to go for a run.
I'm going to do 10k, strap to your back.
Yeah, 7k just won't sell. So I probably screw myself, I don't know. But Yeah, no, they say like your baby will be healthier, your delivery will be better. And at the moment, my last scan, they said the baby is in the right position, the head is down. But they say
You can't wait to get the bloody hell out.
he's probably like, stop moving.
Like, fuck, I just want to lie down and relax.
But then women are on bed rest because of whatever reason, their babies don't go head down, so they end up with breech babies, or there's a high chance, and that's a lot of sedentary sitting workers, right?
But I think like, I really think there's a lot in like, how did we like evolve? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of like any medical advice we get now is like a fraction of like evolution of humans, and I feel like, the primitive ways are the better ways.
Yeah,
Do you know
sure,
what I mean?
aren't we
Like
always trying to strive
the
to
way
get back that
everything.
chill out, eat more natural, eat more organic, be mindful, try and get yourself away from tech. Like, are we not all just trying to say basically like go backwards a little bit?
This is what I really think, like to move forwards, humans need to be more move back. What would be considered backwards?
Yes.
Be more primitive.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, everyone gives out about social media and tech and everything. It's amazing, and it's made the world smaller, and it's been able to pass information so rapidly and so widely, and that's great. But then why are we saying it's the devil at the same time? We're saying, it's bad for your dopamine in your brain. Kids get crazy on it. It's blah blah blah. Like, so. I think there's a need for it, but I think there's also a need for us to be able to get back in nature. And like in my job, I'm prescribing exercise all day. Like, did we have to do that in hundreds of years ago? No, people exercise for a living, to move.
Right.
Like, we're literally
to get food.
Yeah, we're literally telling people you need to do 150 minutes of movement every week. And people are like, I can't even fit that in. Like, are you killing me here? And I'm like, it's really 30 minutes, 5 times a week. That's it.
You're killing yourself not doing it.
And then we wonder why we've got an increased rate of obesity, of these comorbidities, heart disease, strokes. And then you're saying, well, actually, because we don't do what we used to do, which is just move your body. Every day, move your body.
Yeah.
During COVID, we saw a lot, like, people were asking us as physios in the clinic, like, are you busy? And we're like, we've never been busier since COVID, because people first were locked in their house, didn't do any kind of steps. And then after that, they've had 2 years of working from home, where they've just, a lot of people's working days have expanded. They start sooner and they end later. And people are like, oh, it's great, I've no travel time. Yeah, but you spend more of it now sitting at a desk or standing at a desk.
Not on yourself.
Yeah. Whereas, like, at least maybe, okay, you had to go into the office, but you would link that with maybe walking to and from the office, or going to an exercise class at lunchtime, or going for a run at the evening, or running home for work. You're now losing all these little pockets where you were doing a bit of movement. And then we're wondering why people are coming in with more back pain, more neck pain, struggling with weight, more tendon injuries. And it is to do with lack of movement. Like, I'm not saying everyone needs to do a class or a exercise, but your body wants to move all the time. Everyone feels better when they move. How many people hate getting on a flight for 14 hours?
But if you go back, like, again, like how I say, like look back to primitive times, if you were sort of sat still, you were
Bait.
prey.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You'd be eating.
Yeah, you'd be eating. Yeah.
And that's why people evolved, like the fastest, the fittest, they all survived. So is that also why we're seeing increased rates of diseases as well? Because everyone can survive. It's not just the fittest. You can have the weakest survive, and then the genetics, the genetic pool, as bad as it sounds, but it's getting mutated with all these bad genes. And it's not just the fittest thrive. It's, okay, we've got some, bad genes who stay in here as well. And then you're also then seeing increase of genetic disorders and whatnot. So it is.
But this thing that I've got, right?
Yeah.
Like, and again, this is weird that, like, it's my physio that sort of suggests, sort of telling me that this might be a condition that you have, rather than...
Yeah, like, you're just unfortunate.
Rather than the cardiologist.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't know what the heart condition was. It's I've got coronary artery disease.
Yeah. Well, if you give it a label, but yeah.
Well, because I asked him, because, like, I told my parents, I've got this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And well, what is it, sort of thing? So I was like, I'll ask him what the actual term is, because I had to go back. So I asked him, and he said, oh, well, this is the term. This is what it is, sort of thing. And I mentioned to him what you said, like, what was that?
Aldonner syndrome. So
Right.
basically it's hypermobility.
Right.
So where every joint, well, not every joint, it's all smooth muscle, including your ligaments and your tendons, are loose.
Because there must, if that's what I've got, there must be different levels of it, right? Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
looked at it, because it's basically that thing where people pinch the skin and it doesn't go back,
Yeah.
right? So I sort of don't have that.
No, you're not
Whereas
extreme.
you have all this soft tissue
Yeah.
issue.
Laxity, yeah. So it means also then, unfortunately, the smooth muscle around your heart and your arteries, because around each artery will be smooth muscle, and that's what keeps it pulsating and moving the blood along. But if you're loose around that, then unfortunately your pulsation is not as good.
Right.
So you get stagnant blood or slow blood, and then unfortunately, it
It's
means
susceptible to degeneration and
yeah,
tear or
and
whatever.
loosen and over time, which is where you get like clogged arteries. The whole
Yeah.
point of an artery is that it pulses to move all crap and fluid and blood through. But if it's stagnating and it's not pulsing, you get plaques that form, and that's what coronary heart disease is, or congested heart
Yeah,
disease.
so that's what he said that I've got.
Plaques around the
Yeah,
vessels.
he said there's one particular,
area.
vessel.
Yeah,
but
that's got to build up more than others.
Yes, but then but my cholesterol, he said, is really good.
Yeah.
But he still wants me to halve it because it's just like mitigating risk of an issue.
And that's how he knew then it wasn't
lifestyle.
Yes, because if you had loads of these plaques and your cholesterol was up the walls, it's your lifestyle, it's your food and your whatever you're doing that is, or your sedentary life and your bad diet that would be allowing for this to happen. So he had to think outside the box and go, well, why are you're so healthy in other ways but having this issue of an unhealthy person? And then you have to think of genetics then.
Yeah, and that's what he said, it's probably genetics or something like that. But he didn't sort of. I did mention to him the laxicity.
Thing. Yeah.
After we spoke, and he said, like it could be that, but he didn't seem super interested in finding out what that might sort of be or whatever.
And I suppose for him, he's like, not my area, right?
Yeah.
So, and nothing I can change, and I can't cut you open and change your ligaments, so I'm not going to get any business out of it either. So, keep going with your low cholesterol diet.
So after that first diagnosis, I said to him, he said, like, it's really high for someone your age.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, what is the biological age of this? At what age is it normal
to have these signs? Yeah.
And that's when he went onto this
chart.
He went online and he said, oh, that's a really good question. And I was like thinking, not really.
Yeah, like, this is not your
It's a
job.
normal question.
Should you not know this?
And he's kind of like reverse typed the ages to get the thing. And I think I told you, and he said, because I'm half Caucasian, half Asian. He said, well, if you consider yourself Caucasian, 85. And if you consider yourself Asian, it doesn't even rate. It's
you're off the scale.
We don't compute to that level. It's like, okay.
I'll take Caucasian then.
Well, then when you told me that syndrome thing, I went and Googled that.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, you're not giving me a diagnosis.
No.
You're just suggesting, it might be something like this.
Yeah.
Because of the experience that you've had with somebody who specialised in it.
Yeah.
And it seems like plausible with the symptoms that I have, but obviously I don't have the skin, so there's different levels. The average life expectancy of those people with that?
Yes, okay. That's why you're not supposed to go Dr. Google yourself.
47.
Yeah. So, it's 47 to 85, right? Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. It was like, after I sort of like thought about it all, it's like, it's weird that my physiotherapist is giving suggestions of reasons as to why these sort of things are, rather than
the doctor who's the specialist in the area, right? And should be seeing this all day, every day, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of them won't. Like, that's the thing with the body. The body is amazing. It's so complex. But you just get specialists who pigeonhole themselves. So they're like, I am just this, and I am just this. But that's not you. You're not just your heart. You're not just your elbow. You're not just your head. You're a whole Paul. So who's treating and looking at the whole Paul and considering what part of Paul is interlinked with the other part?
But I think, like, there was one thing that because you helped me with my shoulder surgery, right? So I had a broken clavicle that got fixed and a full labrum repair.
Yeah.
And it was the second labrum repair that I had. So 10 years prior, I had one,
other
right?
side.
And I was in the sling, and like all my
bandages,
sort of body wasted away in a way, right? Like, and took a long time to rehabilitate and build the muscle. And then when I went to see you, I think you sort of said, try keep it moving.
Yeah.
So like, I got out of this. I took myself out of the sling, and I was moving. I was moving it myself, and trying to keep it mobile, and just like movement would mean less atrophy, hopefully.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying, "Oh, what have you been doing to reduce your swelling? Like, how often are you icing?
Yeah.
Like, the swelling's gone down quickly."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh shit!
I've not been
I
icing.
haven't been icing. I forgot." And like loads of, I think, healthcare professionals would have been like, no, you should be icing. That's wrong. Where you're like, I've always wondered if icing's the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think you said you wonder if it's just immediate pain relief, maybe reduces some swelling,
in the first 24 to 48 hours. Yeah.
But causes the joint to
stiffen.
seize. Yeah. And also, I forgot to ice. I'd been having 10 cherries a day.
Yeah, you were doing loads of anti-inflammatory stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
turmeric you were smashing as well.
Yeah, a lot of turmeric, fermented turmeric, and then like plant-based, which is kind of what I sort of do anyways.
Yeah.
And like sort of not doing what the doctor was saying and moving it.
Yeah, not
within
sticking
reason.
it to yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like
you weren't lifting or
throwing
loading.
the javelin.
Yeah.
But
you were keeping the tissue mobile.
Yeah, but like, you were kind of interested in that rather than like, no, you should do it this way, which I thought was cool.
No, because you got the same, if not a better outcome. You got a better outcome having not done what conventionally is recommended. So I wanted to know, because I was like, well, you've got a much better outcome than people who have been literally icing every hour for 20 minutes. So what are you doing? Because maybe it mightn't work for everyone, but maybe it's somebody else who can't tolerate ice or doesn't want to ice. I want to give them I want to give them a different option and see what happens. And actually now I'm definitely of the opinion, since I've been treating you and then since moving into my new place, I don't recommend ice at all, because I would only recommend it in the first 24 hours. I actually think, like you were saying, I think it's more of a pain reliever than anything else. And if you can get somebody moving the joint and actually heating the joint, I've seen better outcomes. So I'm like, okay, if you're not doing it, if you haven't done it in the first 24 hours, don't bother. Let's just move the joint. Because isn't it not better that we get you doing what you normally do than freezing it and trying to get the same outcome? Well, that's not a natural thing, and this thing is much more of a natural thing. So let's try and head towards, like we're saying, primitive movements, back to what nature will do. You would, if you got bitten by a tiger in the wild, right? You would wait for the arm, the pain to go, and then you start using it. And then that would be how you strengthen it back up. And you would use it as least painful in positions as it was first. Then you'd go to more kind of, okay, I can tolerate more pain. And then eventually you have to just use it to get on with life. So this whole thing of like babying people or kind of, I don't know, over cautiously rehabbing people, I don't think is the right thing to do within reason and depending on the injury, obviously.
Yeah, you don't want to go backwards.
No,
there's something in between.
Yeah, and it might be
different
what
for everyone.
Yeah, and it mightn't be what textbook says. So quite often, like you were saying, we got you out of the sling much sooner than the doctor technically would have allowed, but your outcome was greater because you got better sooner. I didn't have to spend all my time reversing the effect of being in the sling, which is gold. Like, if I don't have to baby you and then like mollycoddle your arm and get it all going again because of the sling, then we can focus just on strength and pain. And then before you know it, it was like as if you never had an injury, you know? So yeah.
I think also, like, I don't know, like your body reacts to things to protect yourself, right? It's, you know, when your muscle spasms and just sort of locks you up, right?
It's for protection.
Yeah, and then like there's loads of things where what seems like the right thing to do is actually the opposite, right? So like, you know, like your neck, like it seizes, like I used to like stretch it.
Yeah.
And then, like that's
Or go to a chiro and manipulate
but that's
it.
the last thing, right? I need to be like putting like pressures back into it and releasing it and doing that type of thing. So like I've had it like after training where like, like I'm super stiff, like I can feel it in my back, like and I get up
like an old man,
I get up like that, like I'm really like nursing it.
Yeah.
And then like I don't know why or how or what it was at some point. Because after training, actually, every training I go and put the gear and I put it in the wash and the washing machine's low, and I found myself getting up like an old man, and then one day I was just like, I just thought just stand up like you normally would, and just did that, and I just realised that like there's no need to
do all the baby,
this, like nursing myself, when I just that night I just started to just move, just move how you normally would. Do you know what I mean? Like like your shoulder hurts to reach over that, but just make a conscious effort to do the motion how I normally would.
Even push through a little bit of pain.
Like and I feel like I recover better just from moving.
So there's loads of research now in terms of calling that active recovery. Right. So when you're in bits and you've done a gym session or you've done a hard training session and you're like that moving, like the last thing you'd want to do is go for a run. But actually going for 20 minutes of a jog or an active movement, you're going to start off stiff as a board and so sore. But then actually 5-10 minutes in, you're like, actually, I don't really
feel lactic acid out. Our football coach when I was like 15 used to tell us that.
And it clears all the dead broken fibres much quicker than laying around and crawling around like an old man does. And actually you recover better and you're ready for the next session sooner. But it's sore to do it. And like that, are we just now so risk averse and adverse to pain that we'd rather baby ourselves and crawl around for a while when actually it, like you said, it mightn't be intuitively what you should be doing. You should be trying to get out and move or eat
but just like a really good fast walk, 30 minutes, like that.
You're just clearing crap. You're clearing the dead cells.
Or like a swim, like you're realigning.
Yeah, absolutely. And we then see people then become less injured because they're not allowing the tissue to get thick and scarred. They're actually ripping up the scar before they know it, right? And then before the scar becomes embedded or becomes a inhibition, something that then becomes a blockage that you need to get someone like me to go in and needle or massage or shockwave. Like, would it not be better that you just moved after you injured it within reason? If it's not a it's a micro tear, not a major tear. And if you're moving that stuff, you're actually reforming those fibres yourself.
It's like a blockage in a drain, right? If the flow is slow or a river, right? It starts to sort of like block up. But if you like
if you get in at it early,
flushes it out, right?
Or if you literally if you flush it out soon, that's fine. But if you wait and wait and wait,
it just gets more and more harder to break down.
Yeah, you're going to need a drain blocker. Right.
And then I've got to go see. That's what you are, a drain blocker.
Basically, just flush out all the crap. That's my job.
I think Maire is lovely, and I like talking to her, but I never want to see her because it means one, I've got to fucking pay, and two,
you got to have pain,
and two, administer of pain. But it also means like, oh shit, like I'm injured.
Yeah. I know every patient says that to me. Oh, nice to see you, but I wish I didn't have to see you.
I'm
like, oh, thanks.
It finishes with that. It's like,
and like, see you. Hopefully, I won't see you.
That's what this is for. This is representing
your new toy.
This actually, I know you probably think it does nothing, but
no, these are good.
Really?
You're not supposed to do your neck, Paul.
What?
Yeah, it's one place you're not supposed to do is your neck.
It's nice.
Stop.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why can't I do it on my neck?
Because it's too many vibrations. They reckon that it can actually change the cerebral spinal fluid and the fluid between your discs. Okay. So just your neck is the only one they say not to do.
But remember I told you I was getting my bell.
And doing traction.
Yeah.
That's very different. Because it's not vibrations.
You said not to do that, like, because I was doing my whole body weight.
Yeah, that's why I said not to do it. Because typically, as a physio, you do it you're laying on the bed, and I do it with my hand. So the pressure I can exert there is very different to gravity and your body weight.
I thought that was good.
No,
so I was doing
you loosen your ligaments even more.
I was doing that at training.
Yeah, it's just like that.
No, I was doing it at training.
Yeah, he just can't hold it up. And he's like, I feel great though.
It looks like you're hanging yourself. yourself.
I
Right?
can imagine. Yeah.
And then I can remember like I was sort of doing it and just sort of like just trying to relax into it. And I look over and there's like a mum and the kids just finished the kids class and she's. You know, she's not like covering the kid's eye, but it's like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, maybe this doesn't look so good.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Funny story, Paul. I get teased about this all the time in work with my old company, right? When I was working there, you were telling me, you were describing this, technique that you do. And I don't know if you remember, we were out in the fitness area and there was 2 other physios, 2 guys
And
out
they're
there.
listening.
And they're listening.
Okay.
And right, you were telling me how basically you asphyxiate yourself, right?
No, it's not a fixture.
No, I know. But they were hearing this. Another guy one guy was treating, had this guy up on a wall and was doing like these head motions into the wall. And then the other guy walked into the thing and was like, what is going on in here? He's like, he says he'll remember the day till he dies. He thought it was a mental asylum. You were showing me how you choke yourself or hang yourself, and this other guy was just doing head into the wall. And then he was like, what is going on in here? And he just turned out and was like, this place is mental. And they always remind me, do you remember you had that patient where that used to describe how he used to hang himself? I was like, he wasn't describing that. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so funny stories.
But so I think like if I think back to when I first went to a physio, they used that, they put the gel on
Oh yeah,
on
ultrasound.
Yeah. They still have that
Yeah,
type
but
of machinery.
It was
right?
invented in 1960 and hasn't evolved since 1960.
So I was going to say, like, the techniques that you're using are like really, really different. And now in this new place, there's this new machine that you're using on, that you have used on me.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah, painful.
It hurts so much.
So it's called Shockwave. So it's been around since the 60s, but we've only used it to break up kidney stones. That's how it was developed.
Right.
And how they found it was a load of sailors on a boat would have real stodgy, crappy food, and they would all get these gallstones and these kidney stones because of the poor quality of the food, right? But they'd suffer. So the guys down in the hull apparently were lying up against the motor of the boat, and it was the vibrations of that were breaking up their kidney stones.
No way.
So they were all cool after this crappy diet for 6 months on the boat, but the lads up on deck were all in bits and all having to quit their jobs, or they were having to get all these procedures. And then they figured out what the lads downstairs were doing was they were leaning against the vibrations. So that's how it was first found, and then that's how they then customized it and found out that they could shockwave. So all it is really high, very, very strong, intense sound waves that pulsate, and those sound can break up stuff. So like a drill in effect, right? And they started doing it on kidney stones and gallstones, and you just basically pee out the debris. So you just wee out all these crystals, because that's what it is.
That's what I'm doing when you.
No, that's when a kidney stone or a gallstone, right? So then in the late 90s, they figured, well, actually, if we're doing this through people's spine and hitting their kidneys and hitting their gallstones, why can't we do it at a lesser intensity, bring back the depth, and do it on musculoskeletal stuff? And then they started doing it, and they found out that actually it's amazing at breaking up scar tissue. Because scar tissue is really thick, dense fibres of, not like they're tissue, but they're not like muscle. They fill in a muscle tear and they fill in a tendon tear, but they're not made 100% of the same stuff.
Is it like that when you get a chicken breast? Is it like that white stuff?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a scaffold.
Yeah.
To fill in.
So you've got the meat of the chicken and that very thin thing that seems to be holding it together, and then you get that sort of white bit that
at
sort
the
of
side.
feels like it would fill in that sort of little gap there. Sort of thing.
That's that. The first thing you're talking about, the film, that's fascia.
Right.
So that's the thing that makes a muscle look like a muscle, and that's that goes from our head to our toe. It's a full body.
That's
thing.
everywhere. It's
and
just under the skin,
Yeah.
between skin and muscle.
Yes, exactly. But you're talking about that white stuff that kind of fills in the gap. That the yellowy stuff is the fat, but the white is actually scar tissue.
Right.
And if, say, like, this is what you hear about, KFC, the chicken's real bad because it's really swollen, because they've been bashed around and choked around. That's all scar tissue. So it makes it look good and look meaty, but it's actually just all scar. So that's what happens in your tissue when you tear. You put in this lovely scar tissue to fill it, to scaffold it, to break up, to fill in the gap. But naturally then, as humans, running, jumping, hopping, skipping, when the pain is gone, you would rip that up and you would fill it in again with muscle.
Or you might massage it out yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why you see
or
like
load.
animals rubbing on trees and stuff like that. Maybe that's what they're doing.
Exactly, they're breaking up stuff by their own means, or running, loading especially helps it. But as we become more sedentary and fearful of pain, we don't move things for way too long. So we allow this abundance of scar tissue to break up. Or if we keep re-tearing the same thing over and over again, we're building way too much of this scar tissue. The body doesn't know necessarily when to stop building it. And that's what we use the shockwave for. So we're cheating the system, or we're biohacking. We're trying to break up the scar that the person keeps building. But the whole goal is that they go back to movement. Because if they don't go back to exercise, running, hopping, jumping, skipping, or loading, that scar is just going to come back. So the biohack only works if the person continues to be active. If they don't continue to go back to activity, they can come in every week, I can zap them every week, but it's this vicious cycle of I zap them, break it down, they go home, do nothing, it comes back, and it just goes on. So the whole purpose of all these things that physios do, or biohacks that we do, it's to try and speed up healing, to get the person back to movement so that they don't have to come back to me.
Right.
You know, that's the long-term goal.
Yeah, no one wants to go back to you.
No.
But that machine's like amazing, because like the machine goes on and it doesn't hurt.
No.
At all.
Yeah,
Can't
feels
even
fine.
feel it.
Yeah.
Can't feel a thing. And then it just get over a certain area, which is where the scar tissue is.
And it's an agony.
It feels like the pain is in your bones.
Yeah. It's a deep penetrating sound wave, so it can go 5 centimeters deep,
So
and like
it's
that.
literally just sound.
Yeah, that's why it's amazing. Like, that's why like you can't.
At a frequency I can't hear.
You can hear these clicks, but you can't hear.
Yeah. So each is a
shock.
a sound.
Yeah, a shock, basically, a sound wave being sent down. And I can change the frequency so I can make it quicker, which would be technically less painful because you're having less breaks in between, but I'd have to reduce the intensity. So we find kind of a middle ground where we're kind of giving you enough rest, but you're able to cope with the intensity at that frequency. Yeah. Like, and that's what, like, science is not, and you know, tech and all this, it's amazing. It's not to, I think when you get to the human body and physio, people are very reluctant to tech. Like, they're very adverse. They're like, what's all this, like, speeds up healing, like it's all gobbledygook, and like it's all like you're, you know, heebie-jeebie stuff. And I'm like, it's actually not. Like, if I was a doctor and you were coming to me for a gallstone and I was telling you this is how I treat your gallstone, you'd believe it. But when you come to a physio and I'm saying I'm going to use these machines on you, you're like, what's all this machiney? Like, it's all, just use your hands. And I'm like, but my hands aren't getting 5 centimeters deep. My hands aren't causing any vibrations. Like, yes, we all like physical touch, and that is part of people's healing. But you have to move with technology as well and understand that, you know, technology is real. It's not fake. I'm not selling you a dummy. Like, all these things, they're advancements in technology and they do work. You just have to be open to it.
So some people are resistant to it?
Yeah, they just don't think, what's this, this yoke won't work, like it's just a selling point. And I'm like, okay. But that's like, if I was a doctor, for example, if you're coming in for a hip replacement, you'd believe that the piece of metal that I'm putting in your hip is going to work.
Yeah, but we're conditioned to think that doctors know everything because that's the highest marks that you need to get.
Yeah. It's a
hierarchy.
hierarchy. Yeah. Like, and you see it with patients. They'll argue with me over what a doctor said, and I'll say, well, like, he's wrong or she's wrong, you know, and I can tell you that. And they're like, but he's a doctor. And I go, but he's human, and he's a businessman, depending on where you're going. Like, so it doesn't necessarily, just because they're the pinnacle of their profession doesn't mean that they know everything, you know, or they can't be wrong, or they can't tell a lie. Like, we're all human.
Yeah. So you said you're adjusting that threshold thing of that shockwave.
Yeah.
Am I a wuss?
No, I think I did you
Where's
on
mine, like mid-range maybe?
No, I think the highest I ever do any in terms of intensity is 3, and I very rarely use 3. So you were at 2. 2 is pretty high.
Average.
No. Average is 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're above average. You can tolerate. Now, there were certain spots that you really found tender, and it just depends on the area, right? Like,
is that because there's a lot of scar tissue in it?
or it can be that there's not a lot of meat around it.
Oh,
So,
around here.
yeah, like anywhere there's a bone,
Yeah.
where the tendon attaches to the bone. Think of it, I'm banging that tendon off the bone. You're going to feel that way more than if I bang the muscle off the bone, you know. So you're going to feel more up around certain areas.
So is it is the sound wave penetrating the bone as well?
Yeah.
I swear I can feel
Oh
it
yeah,
in my
because we
bone.
use it on stress fractures. We use it on bone tears, like of bone breaks, and they speed up healing in bones. So it's absorbed. A tissue sound is absorbed by anything.
Yeah.
So yes, you may need more higher intensity to be absorbed in a thicker structure like a
What happens
bone.
if you do it on your head?
No, we don't do that because it'll probably go into your brain.
Would it be bad, right?
Yeah, so we don't do it around lungs, neck, brain, skull, and like organs. Like you wouldn't do it on a pregnant woman around her uterus, but you could do it everywhere else on a pregnant woman. You could do it on her foot, you can do it on her elbow, because it's not going to go through her, but it'll go through that area.
So it can cause damage if
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
careful.
Yeah, that's why like some patients are like, can I buy one of these? First of all, they're $50,000 machine, so can you afford it? And second of all, no, because it's medical. Like you can kill yourself.
So you need a license to
Yeah.
buy it or use it?
Well, no, you need to be medically trained. So initially in Singapore, only up to 2019, you could only get it done by a doctor. But that was a protection thing by the Singapore government. But since 2019, they've allowed it to all healthcare professionals. So you have to have a healthcare license to do it, because you need to know where you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like putting it over here, I can get your lung. You could
Well, I
get
just...
a blood clot. Yeah, like that. But this is what we're seeing with the Theraguns and these guns, massage guns. They're great, but people are coming in then flared up in places because
The eye!
Yeah, I've been doing
The eye
that.
hurts!
Like you, I keep passing out. You're like, stop doing it on your neck.
Yeah, right.
So there's certain areas, like with any medical device, even with like home facial kits, right? You put it on the wrong spot, or you put it on too high, you put it on too long, you're gonna get a little bit of irritation, or
Yeah.
so you just need to know. It's always good to ask, like, where should I not do it? Are there places that I shouldn't do it?
Yeah. So then what do you think about traditional Chinese medicine therapies? Like, because you do dry needling, which like
Yeah.
I find really effective.
Yeah.
But what about like things like cupping?
Yeah, I don't think. I think if you understand the concept, so cupping is like myofascial work. So what it does is it sucks up the skin and splits the skin between the fascia. So that I have no issue with. There's forms of it where you can drag it along your whole body.
Like scraping?
No, the cup.
Oh.
You drag the cup, so it's like a suction. So it's kind of like using the vacuum and sucking the skin off the tissue and dragging it along. That I think is very effective, and it makes sense to me, because it's like foam rolling your whole body. It's like separating, moving the fascia, and we always want fascia to move.
Or just instead of massaging down, you're pulling
Your
up,
traction,
right?
yeah, and movement. You're creating space between tissues, which is always good. So that I'm okay. The thing I'm not okay with, or I don't understand, is the cupping where they suction to the point where you bleed. And
they put little cuts.
Yeah.
And then the blood comes out and congeals.
Yeah, and this thing, like, that's what a barber used to be. The red and white sign of a barber.
Yeah.
What they used to do is bloodlet.
Oh.
Barber used to go to a barber and he'd cut you and let out some of your blood, and they used to think that was the cure for everything. Like, if you're a bit faint, you've got too much blood, let a bit of it out. Yeah. And then they were like, people were dying all the time. Yeah.
You make a bit of black pudding.
Yeah, exactly. And it was the barber with a rusty blade probably doing it, giving you the infection,
Giving you
and not knowing where to
tetanus,
cut.
Yeah, hepatitis and tetanus
Yeah,
at the same
at
go.
time. So to me, that sounds similar to this concept of letting, like, cupping, where they say, oh, we'll let some of the blood out. Like, why should you be letting the blood out? Like,
well, so one person told me that, like, the cupping and scraping, there's like small crystal in the blood, that sort of builds it up.
Yeah, but that's cholesterol, right? That's what cholesterol is.
Right.
Crystals in the blood. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's taking that out of an injured area.
Yeah, and I think I get it. Like, you can have, like you were talking about the inflammation that you had at your shoulder after your injury. Like, I had a patient who done her ACL, who tore her ACL, and her mum was taking her, a teenager, and was taking her to TCM, and the TCM was draining the fluid. of the injury. But what all that did was take out the inflammation, right? And she was draining the blood, but the body then would put it back because it was there for a reason.
You need it
to clear out the crap, the damaged cells. So by you taking it out every time, the body just kept putting more in. And she was like, we're going back every day. And I was like, yeah, stop doing it, because your body's doing it for a reason. There's some things that we need the body to do and that are natural and help. And then when you cut or let anything, you're opening yourself up for a risk of infection. So eventually this girl's knee got really infected, and I had to send her to doctor, and she had to be drained, but she had to get antibiotics. So like there's parts of these techniques that are definitely like warranted and do make sense, but there's parts of them that are really old school, like this letting and stuff. Just because the barber did it in the 1600s like doesn't mean it made sense then. Maybe but it doesn't make sense now, right? So I think we have to respect these cultural healing methods, and also try and make sense. Does that make sense? Is that going to help? Yes, it might. So keep doing it. Like acupuncture, we've stolen that as the Western world. Like we call it dry needling, or some people call it white man's acupuncture. But they did it, but they didn't know what they were doing. But we then figured out what happened at the cellular level when we stick in a needle, and there is a physiological and a nervous, a neural change that happens. So we know it's safe. So you can do it.
But maybe they knew it, but didn't understand
the anatomy,
science parts of it.
That's what I mean. So like they've mapped out these things and called them meridians and lines of energy. And like you've had needles, and your movements happen and things change and your body jumps and tweaks.
You're putting one in my head, and I'm feeling it shoot down the back of my leg.
So then that is energy. Like that feels like energy. So actually the way they described it and what they've mapped out is probably a map of trigger points, but they didn't know what it was. So we've had the benefit now that we've combined science with an old traditional method and realised actually there was sense in what they're doing. So now we can back it and we go and we do it as well.
What about scraping?
Yeah, so scraping, I think what I can understand of scraping is they're increasing blood. So by using that technique, they're drawing blood to an area, which will promote healing. Same thing as a heat pack. Same thing as what I do, radio frequency, where I'm bringing blood to an area. I think it has some benefit. I just think if you get to a point where it's taking a week to 2 weeks for that mark to go down, you've probably done more damage than help, so I think there's levels of it. Light scraping, I think in an area where there might be damage or toxins is fine, but I don't think to the point where 2 to 3 weeks for that tissue to recover, you've caused more damage than good.
That's called self-harming.
Yeah, exactly.
No, because someone did scrape it on me and I'd never had it, and it sort of came up, and it's a bit like the machine, right? When you do it 3 or 4 times, nothing comes up, it doesn't need it there, and then you move on, it's coming up, you concentrate on doing it, right? So this was a guy that I see who does like really deep tissue massage, like horrible painful stuff, and
he's probably breaking up scar tissue. That's why it's tough. That's why it works.
When he massages me, it's
not like what we think a massage is.
Oh no, no, it's deep. Like horrible. But and he said, we might just scrape this area, and sort of explained to me about it. And then so later I think that following weekend, I was just watching TV, and I just, it was like where the blood comes up, that's where it needs it. So I just started like scraping myself. And I wasn't doing it too hard, and it went away after 3 or 4 days. But all this side of my arm and where I'd had all the surgeries was just like I was covered.
So probably you were picking fascia or scar tissue. And that's what it breaks sooner, right? Because it's more of it and it's more superficial. So by you doing that, you were able to highlight wherever there was more scar tissue, there was more redness or more bleeding, and then therefore probably needed a bit of help. So we used to do that in physio for tendons. We used to think this technique where we would like friction the tendon. We used to call it friction work. So wherever there was a tendon, like on your knee or your elbow, wherever there was damage, we used to think that if you ran over it loads of times and caused friction,
hand.
Yeah, or you could use the instruments. They could use these kind of basically like a metal scraper, and you would go over and over and over. That they would say then what it did was bring in new blood, stimulate healing. But then they didn't realise that actually when you did it on a tendon, you caused more scar tissue to come in. So
because you're aggravating and inflammating.
Yeah, inflaming it. So they were
Inflaming.
you got some benefit, but if you were doing it too often, too regular, and not that person wasn't able to load the tissue, then it was counterproductive. So then they moved away and they said, no, we don't do friction work anymore. It doesn't work. But actually, light friction with loading probably would have worked.
Okay.
But what they were doing was friction and passive. So friction don't do anything. Friction rest, and it wasn't helping. So we did do that for a lot in the 90s. We frictioned everything. We rubbed everything, and we did invest in these instruments, and we were doing instrument assisted friction, and then we've moved off that. Now we've brought it back to a lighter extent, and we do a form of scraping, which is called instrument assisted scraping, and that's where we use kind of blunter objects, like it's like a metal, it looks like, gua sha.
Gua sha is scraping, right?
In effect, and lymphatic drainage, right? And it's increasing blood flow, and it's trying to move flow away from areas where you might have blockages in your lymphatic system as well. So then we've moved back towards the instrument assisted scraping with exercise and movement, because basically everything we do with our hands or our machines works plus exercise. Nothing on its own works.
To me, it's just like, and it was really like when I was putting the washing in, like I said, like it's just like if I just keep moving,
I'm going to feel better.
Just move how I normally do.
Yeah,
that's just the better way. Yeah.
And like don't adapt my movement. Like don't move like to one side because the other side hurts. Try and keep the body in symmetrical. And actually, now I'm not developing these kinks in my chain or these kinks in my fascia, and actually it does work out better overall. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
we've been going for 3 hours.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realise.
It didn't actually feel like that at all.
No. Well, normally I see you for like 45 minutes.
I know.
And it's intense pain. I actually...
It's probably the quietest you ever are, Paul.
Maybe. It's open top. So you can hear the person in the next one
screaming.
And the machine, because it's, 50 grand, like there's one machine.
Yeah.
Is there?
No, two. We've one each.
Well, they kind of get wheeled around.
Yeah, there was two other machines that we share.
Yeah.
So the instruments of torture.
Yeah. So it goes into another one, and you can hear someone else going. And then
it comes to you.
My one, I feel really self-conscious, like I'm trying to be quiet.
But it's actually better for patients. They say they prefer when they hear the other person screaming, because they're like, oh, that's reassuring. Okay. We're all in the same boat together. So then people start competing with their screams.
Well, I'm trying not to make noise because I don't want you to do it less. Because you think
more is better.
Me. No, I want you to do it more because it's like, well, the more I can handle, the more benefit from
the more I'm breaking down. Yeah,
you're breaking down more, and the less I need to pay to come and see you. So it's like I try to keep quiet, but I can't. And the first time I was grinding my teeth,
you brought in a milk cart.
I bring a mouthpiece in so I don't grind my teeth. So before we sort of like the machine comes out, so.
Yeah, you're like, are you going to do it now? Because I need to put it in.
and bite down.
It doesn't sound good.
It's pretty painful.
Yeah, and that's like,
it hurts. It does.
We have a little speech that I say to every patient, like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this, and this is why I'm doing it. And then I finish with, like, it hurts. And they're like, okay, but like, how bad? And I'm like, it's really hard to describe, just let me do it to you. And then they're like, Jesus, it really hurts. And I'm like, I fucking told you it hurts. And then they're like, it's a deep pain, it's not a sharp pain, it's not a bad pain, but it's pain.
It's an extremely strong, like, and dull's not the word.
No,
right
it's
word,
like
it's
a
not
bone
sharp.
pain.
Yeah, it's an ache.
Yeah.
It's an ache.
If you've ever broken a bone, I think it feels like that ache that you have when the bone is newly broken.
I can feel it in the marrow of the bone, I swear to God.
Oh.
Fucking hell.
You'll have to come in now for a little bit.
I want a session. It sounds great. And I also imagine it's because I imagine the pain is like probably not familiar to most people.
That's the thing.
And so that's what there's this kind of extra level of discomfort, if you like,
because
you're not
I don't know
accustomed
where
to
to
it.
register it. Yeah,
You don't know how to deal with it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, this is kind of deep and kind of dull, but it's sharp and it's just skanky. And
I've never done it before.
Yeah.
And that's why I can't describe it. I'm like, just let me try it on you and you'll know. And then you're like, oh God. And I think it does get better. Like, you can tolerate more the more you do it.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, like I'm ramping it up, like on patients. So the first time I'll keep it low. The second time I'll see if they can tolerate a bit more. And like you said, I wonder if it's because association. They're like, I know what to expect.
Yeah.
I know where to register this now.
Yeah.
So they can tolerate a bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think, like there's subconscious stuff going on
Yeah.
inside our body, right? So when there's this new sensation that's painful,
Yeah, your mind
body,
is also involved.
like, this is wrong, this is
Yeah.
not right, like,
Yeah,
stop,
yeah.
You
stop,
just feel
stop.
scrambled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can't kind of put yourself into that kind of meditative
Yeah,
focus, if you like.
because you're like, I don't know where to register this pain or what to... Do I call it soft? Do I call it intense? Do I call it sharp? Do I call it dull? What type of attack is this? Yeah. And also, I must admit, women are better.
Yeah, but they said women have a
way
higher
better
threshold
dealing
to
with
pain,
pain.
right?
Yeah,
I don't think
definitely.
I have a high threshold to pain. I don't think.
You can tolerate it. Like, you could tolerate enough. Some men are pretty bad.
Is it?
Like, yeah. Like, I think you've never experienced anything. And I then correlate, there's a reason women give birth, because if men did it, we
There'd be
would.
no babies.
There'd be one.
There'd be
And
no
then they'd be all
babies.
fast now. They'd all be like China all over.
Next time,
Yeah.
and I hope this is not a next time, but
Yeah.
there will be a fucking next time.
I'm going to do it at 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Just like, and then
For a second.
when you count down that
Yeah.
10, no,
Yeah.
like, I think that helps me.
Yeah,
So give me
some
give me a
patients
3.
do like that, and some patients are like, "You're not counting. Why are you not counting?" And I'm like, "Oh,
I'm
I didn't know."
okay.
Yeah.
Give me a 3 with a 10 countdown.
Okay.
Just so I can see what it's like.
Let's see if you can handle it.
All right.
Deal.
Cool. All right. Thanks for coming in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's nice
It was
to
cool.
chat.
It was a good chat.